Floyd moves in here overnight tonight, the eye will come close to here or just off to our east. We're going to have hurricane force wind gust. There's going to be a tidal surge out on the beach and especially up the coast towards the Outer Banks. So we're going to get another beating. These beaches were hammered with Dennis a few weeks ago. More beach erosion. We'll likely have some power outages and more heavy rainfall, just what they don't need in this part of the Carolinas. Well, the heavy rain is moving up the eastern seaboard, and our Weather Channel's Bill Keneally has trekked from Florida, where he was covering Floyd a couple of days ago, up to Chesapeake Bay country. He reports now from Solomon's Island in Maryland on the weather as it goes downhill there over the next couple of days. Bill?
All right, Mike, thanks a lot. Again, the rain is upon us now. It's not hurricane-induced necessarily, but that big trough is steering a lot of rain in off the Atlantic Ocean right now. And that is what we've seen today. We started our trip in Baltimore, drove down Highway 2, probably have had about a half an inch to an inch of rain here in southeastern Maryland, but the rain will be the big story, obviously, over the next couple of days. I want to show you some of the scenes as we came south. Again, we arrived in Baltimore, drove south about 70 miles or so, and came down to Solomon's Island. We are right where the Patuxent River meets up with the Chesapeake, about halfway down the Chesapeake on the western shore. You can see folks some boarding up, and just a very serene area, very, very pretty. A big Washington getaway on weekends. Not too many people have gotten away, though, this midweek. Trust me, there's a lot of folks that are apprehensive, I'd say, about the goings-on today and tomorrow. And if you really are concerned, I think the window of worst weather here likely to be from around, say, 8 o'clock in the morning till about 8 o'clock tomorrow night. But I do want to advise folks, the winds will probably not be as big a factor as the heavy rain. We'll have to watch the tides, obviously. With an east wind, we could get some of a surge in here, but it's more likely to be a north wind if the hurricane tracks as expected off to our east over the Delmarva Peninsula. So that's the story here from about halfway down the western side of the Chesapeake. Now back to Atlanta.
All right, thanks a lot, Bill and Jeff and Mike. We'll check back in with you in just a bit. A little bit of an update to give you here. We are getting some reports of flooding already. In Myrtle Beach, we have reports on some of the roads that's 3 to 4 feet deep, chest high in some areas. And also in Wilmington, North Carolina, reports of water 6 to 8 feet over Island Creek Bridge. So there are definitely some rough situations out there, and we will continue to keep you updated on that. Of course, we are monitoring this very closely, including our hurricane expert, John Hope, who has the latest on Hurricane Floyd. John?
Well, thank you, Christina. As Mike Seidel just pointed out, the eye of the hurricane is headed right in his direction. It's still a little over 100 miles away, but it's moving toward the north-northeast about 17 miles an hour. And we believe that in the wee hours of the morning that the eye will cross the coast there very close to Wilmington. It might be a little bit east of there, but it's going to be a very close call. Here you can see the track here for the last 24 hours when it was clear down here just off the Bahamas, and moved first toward the west a little bit and then turned straight north, and now a little bit toward the northeast. And it's down from what it was. The top winds are 115 miles an hour. It is no longer as strong as Hugo was in 1989 or as Andrew was in 1992, but it's still a solid Category 3 hurricane. Now on this frame we have the hurricane, we have the schematic diagram of the Gulf Stream superimposed on it, and we can see for the last several hours the eye has actually been over the Gulf Stream. It's about to emerge here now on the north side. We think the fact that it came over that warmer water had something to do perhaps with it not continuing to weaken. All day long we saw it weaken, but during the evening hours it's just about holding its own. Looking at the latest satellite picture, you can clearly see the eye on the radar down here off Wilmington and that area. A large area of rain extending up to the northeast, most of this along that trough, which is not directly attributable to the hurricane. But the bad part of it is this hurricane tracks up here like so. It's going to continue to rain heavily over areas that have already had an awful lot of rain. And of course that could induce flooding. It's weakening the roots of trees so that they'll blow down easier. And right there in South Carolina is the strongest winds we have inland now. Not that the hurricane is headed any more in that direction, but because for the moment that's the closest point to the center of the hurricane. Here's the forecast track up like so, and that could be a little bit either side of that. And how much land that goes over, that's a critical element in how strong it's going to be when it gets up to the mid-Atlantic states. It looks as if it's not going to make landfall at high tide, which is close to midnight, but more like 3 in the morning, which is neutral between low tide and high tide. At least that's better than having it come at high tide. Torrential rains, though, they continue to be a big story, and they're going to. We've had over a foot of rain in the Wilmington area already, and the Doppler here shows a wide area where we have rain in excess of 10 or 15 inches. So that'll wind it up for this time. Here's Christina again and the Forecast Center.
All right, John Hope, thanks a lot for that information. We have some new information that's just in out of Norfolk that there is extensive flooding there, streets underwater, white caps in the streets because there's so much water and wind, and there's been total drainage reversal there. So obviously a very devastating situation. We'll continue to keep you updated on the latest, but now we want to head back to the studio for the rest of the country's weather with Paul.
Thanks, Christina. We do have a cold front which is stalled out in the east, but back towards the west, an upper level low bringing some showers, even some severe weather. For example, Roosevelt County, New Mexico under severe thunderstorm warning. Let's take a look around the nation. You do see these showers popping up around the Four Corners region, and they still continue. Now in Arizona, Gila County being warned, and these are some strong thunderstorms. We have cold air aloft. We already had reports of golf ball size hail and hail a little bit larger than golf balls falling in parts of Arizona. We also have, anytime we have a tropical storm making landfall or getting close to land, the possibility of tornadoes. So we do have still a tornado watch in parts of North Carolina, also in parts of Virginia as well, and out towards the west. This is the stormy weather we are still monitoring. Gila County being warned for the severe thunderstorms still rolling through parts of Arizona. In fact, they're not just limited there. They also cross the border into New Mexico, where we do have Roosevelt County being warned for a severe thunderstorm. Also in parts of West Texas, where we do have Yoakum County already having reports around Highway 89 of nickel-size hail. High temperatures were helping some of the storms brew in the desert Southwest, well into the 90s in some locations, but about 8 to 10 degrees cooler than your highs were yesterday. And also the Pacific Northwest, you've lost your offshore flow. Onshore flow today in Seattle, your high was only 58 degrees. Lots of 50s and 60s here in parts of the Midwest where your highs were kind of chilly today in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, and also in Green Bay. You warmed up to only 66 degrees today, while the Southeast still holding on to some 90s in Texas and Miami. You're on the southern side of the hurricanes. We're seeing descending air. This 92, that's a record high today. It's quite amazing seeing just north of you. You've only been in the 70s because of all the rain fall and all the cloud cover, especially in the northeast. Your highs, again, only in the lower 70s. In terms of the forecast, we will continue to monitor Floyd as it comes ashore over the next 24 hours and spreads its rain from the Mid-Atlantic region all the way up towards the New England region by midday and into the evening hours. Back towards the west, just a few scattered showers will be popping up during the heat of the day, also into parts of the plains. The heaviest rainfall, again, basically from the Middle Atlantic region northward, where you can easily see 5 to 10 inches of rainfall. Overnight lows tonight will be chilliest in the upper Midwest, dropping down to the 30s. Some frost and freeze advisories for parts of Wisconsin, but your highs tomorrow not a whole lot warmer, in the 60s in the Great Lakes, 90s still holding on to Central and South Texas. Christina?
Well, thanks, Paul. Well, of course, the government is gearing up to help people hurt by Hurricane Floyd. And when we come back, we'll hear how officials are preparing to lend a hand in several ways.
With technology unavailable in any other SUV, just how smooth is the ride of the new Land Rover? The new Land Rover. Technology you'll be comfortable with.
Your Land Rover retailer has something else you'll be comfortable with. Great lease rates on a Discovery.
I never thought when my son moved away that I wouldn't see him for 3 years.
It's just a tractor for my grandson.
But this trip I wasn't gonna miss.
He's sleeping.
My son had built his own life.
He got a John Deere.
Of course. But he still appreciates where he came from.
The LT-133 from John Deere. The only lawn tractor with a past as bright as its future.
For more information about lawn and garden equipment, contact your local John Deere dealer.
The weather is a story, best explained by people who understand it. So get the story from the experts. The Weather Channel, keeping you ahead of the storm.
When I was 18 months old, I lost my hearing. When I was 5, I dreamed of becoming a ballerina, even though I could not hear the music. I felt like giving up. But somehow, I found the strength to stay with it. I was blessed to become the first Miss America in history with a disability. People believed I had a lot of faith in myself, but it was my faith in God that gave me the strength to live my dream. If you are struggling with life's problems, there is a wonderful book you should read. It is called Powerful Living, and it can make our lives better through a belief in God.
For your free copy of Powerful Living, call toll-free 1-800-482-2000. There's no obligation.
Let Powerful Living work for you.
Thanks for joining us here at the Weather Channel for our special extended coverage of Hurricane Floyd. I'm Christina Abernathy. Of course, Hurricane Floyd is continuing to batter the South Carolina and North Carolina coast. We've had heavy rains. The threat of severe weather continues, and flooding is expected to be extensive. A quick update here. A tornado warning is in effect in eastern North Carolina for western Hyde County. Often when we see these hurricanes nearing land and making landfall, we do see severe weather, including tornadoes. Also, already reports of extensive flooding in Norfolk. Streets are underwater. There are white caps on the streets because of the rain and because of the wind, and there's total drainage reversal there. Additionally, we have reports of flooding in South Carolina. Myrtle Beach, reports of water 3 to 4 feet deep on some of the roads, and we're also getting reports of flooding in Wilmington with 6 to 8 feet of water over Island Creek Bridge. Of course, we're keeping you updated on the Carolinas, but states farther north are also gearing up for the potential impact of Hurricane Floyd. In the nation's capital, the D.C. public schools will be closed Thursday. Several school districts in Maryland will also be closed on Thursday. Also in the capital, the U.S. House of Representatives has suspended its legislative business for the next week. The Senate and the rest of the federal government offices will remain open. The governor of New York has placed the National Guard on 24-hour alert. The governor of Connecticut has done the same thing. Connecticut's Department of Environmental Protection plans to close state parks, boat launches, and other facilities if the forecast for Floyd remains the same. And like other states in the Northeast, Connecticut has put additional utility crews on alert. And we want to now give you an update that just before leaving Hawaii to return to Washington, President Clinton declared North and South Carolina disaster areas. Here are his comments.
I hope that every citizen will heed the warnings of the officials and the recommendations to take every action to protect their families and stay out of harm's way.
Earlier today, FEMA Director James Lee Witt talked about the serious effect of a storm surge as Floyd approaches the east coastline.
This is going to cause some really serious flooding, and we're very concerned about this, and just ask people to watch this very closely. And if you're in low-lying areas and have not evacuated, you need to take heed and do so as they've asked you to do.
Well, Hurricane Floyd is certainly bad news for folks along the East Coast, but it may be good news for taxpayers, as the IRS has given a 15-day extension to taxpayers in affected areas. corporate partnership or fiduciary returns that were due today can file by September 30th without penalty. The IRS is also suspending audits, seizures, and levies until October 15th for federal disaster areas. Taxpayers there may claim uninsured casualty losses by putting Hurricane Floyd on an amended 1998 return or on their 1999 forms. Well, we want to take a look now at the latest on Hurricane Floyd, the latest coordinates, and this is how it stands right now. Of course, you can see Hurricane Floyd that is right there just lurking off the Carolina coast. We'll take a bit of a closer view of Hurricane Floyd, and again, there you can see it. The latest coordinates, 32.4 north, 78.6 west. That puts the center about 135 miles south-southwest of Wilmington, North Carolina. The winds 115 miles per hour, moving to the north-northeast, still at 17 miles per hour, and the pressure is still at 950 millibars. Of course, we also have the hurricane warnings in effect along parts of the East Coast, and you can see that it is getting nearer and nearer to the Carolina coastline, and it is expected to make landfall sometime later on tonight during the early morning hours, perhaps during the middle of the night, actually. So we will continue to keep you updated on Hurricane Floyd. That's the latest coordinates that we have right now. And again, we want to take a look at the latest on Hurricane Gert.
That's right, Christina. There's not only one hurricane, there are two hurricanes in the tropical Atlantic. Floyd actually getting close to the Carolina coastline, and here in the central Atlantic, this is Hurricane Gert. And it's also a very powerful hurricane, and it's getting too close to comfort for some folks in the Lesser Antilles and the Greater Antilles as well. Let's pull up the latest coordinates on Hurricane Gert. We can show you sustained winds 150 miles per hour. This is a very strong Category 4 hurricane. It's almost as strong as the strongest part of Floyd was a couple of days ago. It's moving due west at 13 miles per hour. Central pressure also quite impressive, 930 millibars. Currently, the coordinate 17.6 north, 50.7 west. That's as of 5 p.m. Eastern Time. We're expecting another update shortly here. As of that time, 725 miles to the east of the northern Leeward Islands. And again, that trek towards the west right now at 13 miles per hour is concerning folks here in the Leeward Islands, but it's still well over 700 miles away. We can see, quite unlike Floyd now being influenced by that trough, Floyd is much more elongated, kind of oval-like. But you see Hurricane Gert, a very strong, very powerful hurricane here with a strong outflow in the upper levels, is very concentric, a nice tight circle and a well-developed and well-formed eye here. So this is a powerful hurricane. But in terms of interest, or if you live along or you have vacation plans to the Lesser Antilles, the good news is, let's take a look at the forecast track. The actual projected path is for it to keep turning more and more towards the north of west, eventually towards the northwest in totally by Friday and even by Saturday morning. And again, there is some margin of error here, but the good news is, even if it takes the most southerly route here on this forecast, you're still the center several hundred miles, probably more like 500 miles from the Leeward Islands here. The best hope here in the forecast will take it well over 700 to 800 miles. The center is away from the Lesser Antilles. So that has the good news in the region. In fact, the forecast calls for just your typical afternoon thunderstorms in Santo Domingo and Jamaica, also in Cuba and Cancun as well. No otherwise organized tropical activity here in the Caribbean. That's good news for you. Let's go ahead and take a look at the weekend outlook. Folks are wondering how long Floyd or its effects will linger, and we will see plenty of rain all up and down the eastern seaboard tomorrow. By Friday, look for that rain to continue in parts of the Northeast. Moving into New England, that means more rain slowly ending in our nation's capital and also in Philadelphia, but most of the day still windy and rainy in New York City, and a lot more rain in store for you in Boston. Also, if you have plans to get away, perhaps to Martha's Vineyard or Cape Cod this weekend, it will be very windy and very rainy, both on Friday and on Saturday as well. We still see most of the remnants of Floyd moving up towards Nova Scotia, but we will see some more wind in the Cape. Not the best for boaters this weekend. Meanwhile, the rest of the eastern half of the nation is drying out. Plenty of dry time to recover from whatever damage Floyd may do as it starts to approach land. By Sunday, we see more showers now moving through the Midwest, but the East Coast does remain on the dry side. Temperatures, a little bit of a taste of fall. Great Lakes in the northeast, 60s and 70s will be your highs on Friday. Again, the cloud cover and the rain will be keeping your temperatures only in the 60s and 70s, but out towards the west, you do warm up into the 80s. By Saturday, you see a little more sunshine, and we start seeing the 80s slowly start moving back up into the Carolinas by Sunday. Well, that's a look at your weekend outlook and a look at Hurricane Gert. Let's head back to Christina.
All right, thanks, Paul. Well, of course, Myrtle Beach is one of the areas that's being impacted by Hurricane Floyd. Reporter Ross Cavett has this report.
Here in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, already gale force winds, some tropical storm force winds ripping apart some of our umbrellas and equipment here already. And further down in Myrtle Beach, it's also doing some damage to some buildings, ripping apart a front of a building under construction on Ocean Boulevard. Police surrounded the building and contained it, even started nailing up some boards to fix that particular problem. Police say they will be patrolling the streets of Myrtle Beach until winds hit 55 miles an hour, at which point they'll be called back to base. They'll drop off their cars, they'll head for higher ground, and will not go back or respond to any particular calls whatsoever. Two big factors here in Myrtle Beach for when Floyd comes ashore and how much damage will be done. First of all, when the high tide is, and that's at this point after midnight. Secondly, where the eye will come ashore. If it comes ashore, as is now expected to, east of here, that will minimize storm surge damage. If it comes in near Myrtle Beach or to the west of here, the storm surge will be huge, will be large, and probably the most devastating aspect of this hurricane as it comes ashore somewhere on the Carolinas. In the meantime, the torrential rain continues. Already 8 inches of rain and street flooding here in Myrtle Beach. They're holding on, waiting and watching as the eye creeps closer to the Carolinas. In Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, I'm Ross Cavett. Now back to you.
And of course, we'll continue to keep you updated on Hurricane Floyd. If you need any additional information and you're not near your TV set, you can always check us out online at weather.com. And of course, we will continue with our special expanded coverage of Hurricane Floyd right after the break. Stay with us.
Ranger Rex here to help keep you prepared for any shopping.
Hundreds of companies have made a remarkable scientific discovery. Kelly Scientific Resources, the unit of Kelly services that provides experienced, qualified scientists at all levels, always pre-screened by scientific professionals. Kelly Services, 750,000 employees worldwide, just a phone call away. 1-888-GO-KELLY. Kelly Services. Look what we do now.
I'm a professional vandal. I break in, damage, destroy. I'm Peter Day, and I train our claims adjusters at Liberty Mutual Insurance to help them understand what it's like to lose a home. I help them build one, and then I destroy it. It makes us better at assessing damage from storms, fires, and just about anything else that threatens your home.
At Liberty Mutual, we have hundreds of experts helping you live a safer, more secure life. It's insurance in action.
Think of it as tough love.
For more information, visit our website at www.libertymutual.com.
You were looking at Hurricane Floyd. This powerful hurricane is only hours from making landfall in the United States. Floyd's fury devastated parts of the Bahamas as the hurricane moved through. You can see the damage in this area is terrible. And the hurricane has already left its mark on Florida. It damaged about 100 feet of the century-old pier in Daytona Beach. And Floyd may still be at sea, but heavy rains are causing flooding up and down the eastern seaboard. Good evening and welcome to the special edition of Weather Center. I'm Paul Goodlow. Thanks for joining us. I'll have a look at the rest of the country and also an update on Hurricane Gert.
And I'm Christina Abernathy in the Forecast Center, where we continue to monitor the progress of Hurricane Floyd as it gets closer and closer to shore.
Here in eastern North Carolina, the worst is overnight tonight. Everybody is hunkered down for the fury from Hurricane Floyd. High tide is coming up and the rain has moved back in. I'll have a live report coming up in just a moment.
And I'm Jeff Morrow in Charleston, South Carolina. We're still feeling some very, very gusty winds. Reports of damage coming in from around Charleston. I'll have an update in just a moment.
Well, Floyd is still a Category 3 hurricane. It is a very powerful hurricane. Let's take a look at the latest. Here are the details. And the eye of Hurricane Floyd is no longer expected to come ashore in South Carolina. President Clinton has already declared part of the state a disaster area. It's now it's now north actually, where Hurricane Floyd is expected to come ashore sometime late tonight or tomorrow. Thousands of people in North Carolina hurrying inland packed highways for a second straight day, and evacuation orders were issued today for the barrier islands outside Wilmington and the Outer Banks. Hurricane-spawned tornadoes touched down earlier in Wilmington today, and in Virginia, schools along that state's eastern shore are closed tomorrow and shelters will open. The governor of Florida says his state is blessed as the storm did not come ashore there, but evacuation orders have been listed in several counties, including Brevard and Volusia counties. Well, let's take a look at the latest coordinates. I believe we have some new information just in. The latest advisory as of 10 o'clock has Floyd centered at 32.6 north, 78.5 west. That puts the center about 120 miles south-southwest of Wilmington, North Carolina. The winds are still at 115 miles per hour. It's still moving northeast at 17 miles per hour, and the pressure is still 950 millibars. Hurricane warnings: Fernandina Beach, Florida, northward to Chincoteague, Virginia. We also have tropical storm warnings from Chincoteague northward to Sandy Hook, New Jersey. North of there to the Merrimack River, we have tropical storm watches in effect, and that does include Long Island Sound, and additionally a tornado watch is in effect. Of course, we have been covering the situation with crews up and down the southeast coast, and they join us now live. We're going to start out with Jeff Morrow, who joins us live from Charleston, South Carolina, and it looks like the winds are still whipping up there and the rain's still falling. Jeff?
It is whipping and the rain is still falling. The rain really hasn't been the biggest problem here, Christina. It has mainly been the wind that has caused some of the damage. Of course, we'll be able to assess that a lot more when things calm down later on overnight. And of course, when the sun comes up tomorrow and the hurricane is moving away at that point, we'll be able to assess a lot more of the damage. The damage reports that we are getting are mainly minor at this point. Now, we've got some trees down, obviously. There has been power outages, although the power in parts of downtown Charleston proper is on. I can see some of the lights in the city. Let's move around here and I'll show you maybe a little bit of an example of some of the damage that has been occurring. We have a big warehouse type building next to us here that houses a lot of the boats, some of the smaller boats that people have in the marina, and pieces of that building have been peeling off. That's what this is right here. And again, that's been flying around, although since the wind has calmed down just a little bit in the last couple of hours, we haven't seen any more pieces of that come off. A couple of light poles have come crashing down, some other minor damage for the most part. We'll look down the roadway here, and again, you can see some of the awning there and a little piece of the light pole that fell over a little bit earlier this evening when the winds at times were gusting 75, maybe close to 80 miles an hour. It's still blowing pretty hard, as you can see. I have to kind of brace myself a little bit here against the wind, but we do expect this hurricane to slowly die down overnight. I would not recommend going out if you're around the low country tonight. I would stay indoors and just let everything kind of blow by, and then we'll kind of assess where we are as we head on into tomorrow. Let's go a little bit farther up the coast now. Mike Seidel is also enduring some of Floyd. Mike?
And tonight, Jeff, Floyd is just beginning to be felt here in eastern North Carolina, an area no stranger to hurricanes. Recently, remember Bertha, Fran, Dennis a few weeks ago, and now Floyd, and the weather is going downhill very quickly. Everybody has evacuated. We're at Wrightsville Beach. In fact, I'm right near the Causeway Bridge, and you can't go across to the beach for good reason. Very susceptible to overwash. Also, the risk of storm surge, especially as Floyd moves towards us early in the morning, say 4 or 5 o'clock. Now today we drove from Myrtle Beach up here to the Wilmington-Wrightsville Beach area along Highway 17, and this is what we saw. This is what happens when you get a foot of rain ahead of the storm. Now, that's what was really so amazing about this hurricane, is that it dropped a foot of rain before the real impact was felt here in eastern North Carolina, and the roadway was turned into a virtual river. We felt like we were steering a Mercury cruiser with an outboard motor instead of a minivan, and the rain continues to come down tonight. The first real bands over the past couple of hours now being felt here at Wrightsville Beach. We're getting wind gusts 40 to 50 miles an hour, and notice the trees being whipped around by these winds, and we can hear the wind kind of now whistling and howling between the buildings, and it's only going to get worse as we go through the overnight hours as the hurricane approaches. We may not take a direct hit, but it doesn't matter. There's going to be wind damage, there's going to be power outages, and along the coast from here up towards the Outer Banks, there's going to be a storm surge, as John Hope mentioned, 7 to 11 feet, and more beach erosion on top of what Dennis did. Fortunately, this storm will move out very quickly. Dennis stuck around for about a week. Let's move up the coast now. Bill Keneally has taken the trek from Florida to Maryland. He's up on the Chesapeake Bay. Bill, what's the situation there tonight?
All right, Mike, thanks a lot. Again, we have outflanked the hurricane, so to speak. We're probably, I'd estimate, about 400 miles to the north-northeast of the hurricane, and Hurricane Floyd moving at 17 miles per hour. So I think the worst of it will be felt here from mid-morning tomorrow till about the middle evening hours, and it may accelerate a little bit, so hopefully by late tomorrow night most of it will be out of our hair. But we are anticipating tropical storm force winds on the order of 40 to probably 60 miles per hour. It's doubtful we'll get hurricane force winds here. Hopefully the track will be farther to our east. However, anticipating all that, schools in the area have been shut down. I want to show you some video we shot earlier today as we arrived on the scene. We came on down I-97 and Highway 2, worked our way in here to Solomon's Island, about 50 miles southeast of Washington. Just a few folks boarding up, but most areas are just kind of taking a wait-and-see attitude. And to be honest, I think the big concern, the big weather parameter, if you will be the heavy rain. We have probably had about an inch of it already today, and we are anticipating several inches late tonight through mid-evening tomorrow, maybe another 4 to 5 inches of rain. So flooding could be a concern. It is a far cry from when I came through here in late July when lawns were rather crispy, I'll say. It was very green as we came on down today versus that very brown look about 6 weeks ago. So that's how it stands now here in Christina, in Solomon's Landing, Solomon's Island area. We're going to take a break, but we'll be back up, well, dark and early, we'll say, 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. Back to you.
All right, Bill, thanks a lot for that report. Well, of course, our experts have been monitoring the situation very closely. We're joined now by our hurricane expert, John Hope, for expert analysis. John?
Well, thank you, Christina. The eye of the hurricane is still bearing down on North Carolina. I think it's going to come very close to Wrightsville Beach where Mike is, and it won't be too much longer, about 4 or 5 hours, something like that, I think, at the rate of speed. The last advisory was 120 miles away, and it's moving close to 20 miles an hour, not quite that much. Now, looking at the satellite picture, and here we have the Gulf Stream superimposed on it. The reason we did that, we wanted to point out that it's been over this warmer water, and we think that's probably stopped this weakening trend we saw earlier. I don't think it's getting any stronger. I don't expect it to get any stronger, but at least it's maintaining its own. But I don't see much deviation recently from this movement toward the north-northeast, right in the general direction of Wilmington, North Carolina. So the good news for folks down here, farther down here toward Charleston and, of course, along the Georgia coast, that the wind is all offshore. Here we're looking at the radar. We see the eye of the hurricane very plainly as it's moving towards the north-northeast, and not all that far, as you can see, from Wilmington. Now, this tremendous area of rain out ahead of it, a lot of this up in this area is caused by that upper trough and perhaps some interaction with the hurricane. But the bad thing is some of this rain has been extremely heavy. They've had up to 15 inches in some of these areas already, and of course, as the hurricane tracks up like so, heavy rain is going to continue along the path, and so lots more rain, certainly enough to cause very serious flooding. Also, we don't want to discount the storm surge. We're looking for a storm surge of 7 or 8 feet anyway as this comes in, certainly enough to do tremendous damage on the beaches, on the same beaches that have been affected by so many hurricanes in recent years. And here is yet another one, zeroing in on the very same area. Strongest gust this last hour, 61 miles an hour at Charleston on land. We see quite a bit stronger winds than that on the buoys offshore. And we have some evidence already that the tide up here near the North Carolina, South Carolina border is about 45 feet above normal and rising at the rate of about a foot an hour or so. And some of the offshore buoys out here, not very far offshore, are reporting waves of 42 feet. So there are some tremendous waves out there. Forecast path, something like so. We expect it to go up pretty near the middle of that. And how much it weakens over land depends a lot on how long a piece of land it has to go over. If it doesn't go over very much land there in North Carolina and southeastern Virginia, it'll be back out over the water so it can maintain its strength, and therefore it'll be stronger when it gets up to the northeast. It looks like around Wilmington it's not going to hit at high tide, which is about midnight, but more like 3 a.m., which is halfway between the low tide and the high tide. So we're glad to be able to show you that. Here's a radar depiction of the precipitation accumulation so far in a wide area in here in the range of 10 to 15 inches. So this is going to be a soaker. And again, that causes flooding problems. Obviously, it weakens the roots of trees so that they can be blown down easier by the wind. So that much is not a good situation. So that'll do it for this time. And now back to Christina in the Forecast Center.
All right, John, of course, we've been keeping a very close eye on Hurricane Floyd, but a lot of folks are also concerned about Hurricane Gert. Is there a need for concern along the East Coast?
Well, not along the East Coast, I don't think, and not even in the Leeward Islands, even though the hurricane is a very powerful hurricane, 150 miles an hour, and apparently at the moment still moving right toward the northern Leeward Islands. But we feel pretty confident in the next 36 to 48 hours that the center is going to begin to turn north and go north of the Leeward Islands, north of the Virgin Islands, and north of Puerto Rico. Hopefully it will go up over the North Atlantic, not bother anybody. Right now we don't perceive it as being a possible threat to the United States.
All right, John Hope, thanks a lot for that update and for keeping us updated this evening. And of course, we will continue to give you information on Hurricane Floyd as we head through the rest of tonight. And we want to now head back to the studio for the rest of the country's weather with Paul.
Thanks, Christina. We do have some active weather, mainly in the desert southwest. In New Mexico, Roosevelt County under a severe thunderstorm warning. Also in Texas, Yoakum County. You've seen a nickel-size hail already earlier in parts of Arizona. In Yavapai County around Prescott Valley, anywhere from golf ball to baseball-size hail. It's almost 3 inches in diameter. And right now we do see, take a look at the maps, upper level low still causing some showers and some thunderstorms around the Four Corners, but the most dominating feature on the map is in the southeast. Hurricane Floyd continues to bring rain all the way up towards parts of coastal Maine now. The Midwest, you've been enjoying some quiet but cooler weather. Also Texas, warm but not nearly the record heat you had earlier, but we're still watching the strong thunderstorms firing up. We have cold air aloft for this upper level low, and we are seeing some large hail. Earlier, golf ball size hail, and throughout the day it grew to baseball size hail around Prescott Valley in northern and north central Arizona. Right now we're still watching the area of the southwest. We can still see some strong to severe thunderstorms. Currently in Arizona there are no active warnings, but we still see some stronger thunderstorms between Phoenix and Tucson right now. You definitely are in store for a few storms as you head towards the evening, although I think they're not large enough to be warned for severe thunderstorms. Different case as you cross the border into New Mexico. We still have this strong cell here in Roosevelt County, New Mexico, still being warned for a severe thunderstorm. Then you cross the border here into Texas, where Yoakum County has that severe thunderstorm. And also notice just towards the southeast of Lubbock, another very strong thunderstorm continues to roll through that region. So if you're traveling from Lubbock to Amarillo or also Interstate 40, be prepared for some very gusty weather. In terms of high temperatures out towards the west, the desert's still warm in the 90s, although coastal sections of California, cool. 67 was your high in San Diego, 64 in San Francisco. Just the other day, Seattle, you were close to 90 degrees, that offshore flow. The winds have changed. Now an onshore flow, your high today only 58 degrees. Plenty of cool conditions here in the upper Midwest. 66 was your high in Minneapolis, 60 in International Falls, while St. Louis, you were warmed up to 79 degrees, and Chicago, you're about 12 degrees cooler. Your high today only 67 degrees. The southeast, a few spots having record highs like Miami. You're on the south side of that hurricane, so you're seeing descending air that warmed you up to our new record high today, 92 degrees. Well, we're also seeing some low 90s here in Texas. 93 was your high in Houston, 92 in San Antonio. Dallas, not in the 90s or the 100s. Your high today only 88 degrees. In the northeast, you had the cloud cover this morning. The rain came in this afternoon, and that limited your temperatures to only 70s for high temperatures. 71 in New York City and Boston. Philadelphia, 72, our nation's capital. Your high today was 72 degrees. Back towards the Great Lakes, Cleveland, your high today was only 73. A little touch of fall is in the air, and high pressure continues to bring that cooler air over the Great Lakes and in parts of the Northeast, which is not being affected by Hurricane Floyd now and the moisture associated from it. The forecast by tomorrow morning calls for more rain from the Carolinas northward through New England, and that continues all day long. While the Great Lakes, you're in store for a quiet day. The upper level low weakens slightly, but we still see the chance of some scattered showers in parts of the panhandle of Texas and Oklahoma, and also back towards the Four Corners. We'll see a few more thunderstorms in the plains by the evening hours, and the rain continues to fall in the Mid-Atlantic region northward through Boston, also through Maine as well, where you can see anywhere from 5 to 10 inches already. Well over 13 inches of rain have fallen in the last day in Wilmington, North Carolina, and more rain continues to move in this direction. We already have numerous counties and areas being warned for flash flooding and also flash flood watches all up and down the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. In terms of overnight lows, well, the clouds will keep you only in the 60s and 70s for overnight lows. Your high temperatures tomorrow really don't warm up that much with all the rainfall. 60s and 70s here in the Northeast. It is warming up out towards the west. You peak up in the 80s in parts of the high plains. Tomorrow's morning's weather, the commute, very windy, very wet, very rainy, very cloudy, and the temperatures really don't move much from the low 70s. The southeast, you are slowly clearing out from what's left of Floyd, but it's going to be a warm day, temperatures in the 80s and to the lower 90s. The Midwest, another cool day is in store for you, mainly temperatures in the 60s and the 70s. Out towards the west, a few scattered showers are possible around the Four Corners. Otherwise, the low clouds and coastal fog keep things cool along the coast. Your highs will struggle to get out of the 60s into the lower 70s. In the deserts, once again, another warm day for you. 101 will be your high tomorrow in Phoenix. Well, now for continuing coverage on Floyd, let's head back to the Forecast Center and Christina Abernathy.
All right, thanks a lot, Paul. And of course, you'll want to stay with us for the special extended coverage of Hurricane Floyd. We will keep you updated on the very latest. That's after your local forecast and a break.
Michelin, because so much is riding on your tires.
Buy 4 Michelin tires now and get a free emergency roadside kit. Play the Michelin Buy 4 and Score game and maybe win a Dodge Viper, plus other great prizes. See your participating Michelin dealer by October 31st.
Buy 4 and Score with Michelin at a participating dealer near you.
Okay, with AT&T's new one-rate 7-cent plan, now your calls all day, every day are just 7 cents a minute.
Yeah? What about those nickel plans?
Okay, it's not always a nickel.
It's not.
During the day, that nickel can cost you a quarter.
Making it no longer a nickel.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah, but with AT&T, it's simple.
It's always 7 cents a minute.
24 hours a day?
Yes.
Every day?
Yes.
7 days, 7 cents?
Yes.
Do you want to explain it to him again?
I don't.
All day, every day. Call 1-800-41-RATE to enroll.
What a close call with my overactive bladder. Having to go suddenly, needing to go so frequently. But that time, I almost didn't make it. That did it. I asked my doctor about Detrol.
Overactive bladder is a medical condition. Today's prescription Detrol is proven effective to treat it. Detrol reduced bathroom visits by 2.2 times in 24 hours versus 1.1 times with placebo. 1.2 fewer wedding accidents occurred with Detrol versus 0.8 fewer with placebo. Similar decreases over 24 hours. If you have certain types of stomach, urinary, or glaucoma problems, do not take Detrol. The most common side effect is dry mouth. Some others may include dry eyes, headache, constipation, and indigestion. Enjoy the movie?
Thanks to Detrol.
Ask your doctor about Detrol or call 1-888-612-5511 for a free information kit. Prescription Detrol, proven effective to treat overactive bladder.
Well, thanks for joining us for this special expanded coverage of Hurricane Floyd. I'm Christina Abernathy. And while Hurricane Floyd is now a Category 3 hurricane, it is still a very powerful threat to the Carolinas and also points northward potentially as we head through time. It's getting closer and closer to shore. Here's the latest. Now, while the eye of Hurricane Floyd is no longer expected to come ashore in South Carolina, folks are getting some rather rough weather there. President Clinton has already declared part of the state a disaster area. And now it looks like the hurricane is going to head to the north and should make landfall sometime in North Carolina as we head through the overnight hours. Well, we want to now take a look at what happened just before leaving Hawaii to return to Washington. President Clinton declared North and South Carolina disaster areas. Here are the president's comments.
I hope that every citizen will heed the warnings of the officials and the recommendations to take every action to protect their families and stay out of harm's way.
Well, we want to take a look at the latest details on Hurricane Floyd right now. The latest coordinates have it centered at 32.6 north, 78.5 west. That puts the center about 120 miles south-southwest of Wilmington. Winds 115 miles per hour, moving to the north-northeast at 17, and the pressure at 950 millibars. Those hurricane warnings continue from Fernandina Beach, Florida, northward to Chincoteague, Virginia. We also have tropical storm warnings north of there to Sandy Hook, New Jersey, north of Sandy Hook to the Merrimack River. We have tropical storm watches in effect. Additionally, we do have a tornado watch in effect for parts of Virginia and for parts of North Carolina. Well, the mayor of Myrtle Beach is also talking about Floyd and how the community stayed ahead of the storm.
Went real well. We had a tremendous response to our evacuation. The problem is everybody went at once, and we had a little backup on the roads, but it eventually cleared itself, and we're real happy with the response we got from the public.
Well, Hurricane Floyd certainly bad news for folks along the East Coast, but it may be good news for taxpayers. The IRS has given a 15-day extension to taxpayers in affected areas. Corporate, partnership, or fiduciary returns that were due today can file by September 30th without penalty. The IRS is suspending audits, seizures, and levies until October 15th for federal disaster areas. Taxpayers there may claim uninsured casualty losses by putting Hurricane Floyd on an unnamed 1998 return or on their 1999 forms. So that's how it stands, the latest on Hurricane Floyd. Now we head back to the studio with Paul Goodloe for the latest on Gert.
That's right, we do have another hurricane here in the Atlantic. This is Hurricane Gert, and if you notice, it's actually kind of following the same path that Hurricane Floyd has followed. The difference is that same trough, which is helping to turn Hurricane Floyd more and more towards the north, now towards the northeast, will eventually work out here and turn Hurricane Gert well before it reaches the Bahamas or the southeast of the United States. That is the good news, but a lot of people who live in the Greater Antilles or the Leeward Islands here, Lesser Antilles, are worried because this is a huge hurricane. If you take a look at the last couple of pictures of Hurricane Floyd there, notice how it gets a little oblong. It's longer north and south than it is wide east and west. Different story here with Hurricane Gert. This is a very strong hurricane, not undergoing the same shearing effects by that trough that Hurricane Floyd is, but again, it is getting dangerously close to the Leeward Islands, and actually the 11 p.m. coordinates, if you're tracking this storm, 17.9 north, 51.2 west, or about 695 miles due east of the northern Leeward Islands. Sustained winds still 150 miles per hour. That is a very strong Category 4 hurricane, and it's slowed down a little bit now, moving towards the west at 10 miles per hour. The central pressure has risen by 3 millibars. Now here's a close-up view of this storm. You can see how nice and circular it is, so it is a very strong storm and a very discernible eye. But the forecast for this storm, you can see the Leeward Islands here, that's why there's such concern. But the forecast, this is the good news, for it to turn more and more towards the north. As we go, even over the next 12 to 24 hours, you should notice more of a northerly trajectory rather than just due west. And even by Saturday, it should be well north of the Leeward Islands, but you will be experiencing higher and rougher surf as we go throughout the next several days. But the forecast for the Caribbean, just some Drier conditions for Saturday and for Sunday. More rain showers back towards the Midwest. High temperatures over the weekend, mainly in the 60s and 70s, but you will be drying out Saturday and Sunday. For more on Hurricane Floyd, let's head back to Christina Abernathy.
All right, thanks a lot, Paul. Just a bit of a recap here. Of course, Hurricane Floyd is getting nearer and nearer to the North Carolina coast, already getting flooding reports also, Norfolk, Myrtle Beach, and Wilmington, and the threat of severe weather continues. We'll keep you updated on the very latest. Stay with us.
Once upon a time, there was a gentleman came in from the islands, and he had this huge list of things to buy. Wow. Let's start enlightening. They had sent him over here to buy all the supplies they needed for the whole year. Next, we're going to lumber, plumbing, hardware. He says, you know, they gave me 4 days to do this, and I got it all done in one stop at Home Depot.
Pick up water, dirt, and even nails with the increased power of a new generation of Genie Wet Dry Vacs. You'll find them at the guaranteed low price every day at the Home Depot.
If your replacement windshield isn't installed properly, you could have a slight leaking problem. That's why you should go to the pros. PPG ProStars certified technicians. Whether you need your windshield repaired or replaced, they're professionals who do the job right the first time. For auto glass repair or replacement, look for PPG ProStars certified technicians.
Call the PPG ProStars located nearest you to repair or replace your windshield.
You are looking at Hurricane Floyd. This powerful hurricane is only hours from making landfall in the United States. Floyd's fury devastated parts of the Bahamas as the hurricane moved through. As you can see, the damage has been terrible. And the hurricane has already left its mark on Florida, damaged about 100 feet of this century-old pier in Daytona Beach. And Floyd may still be at sea, but heavy rains are causing flooding up and down the eastern seaboard.
And I'm Jeff Morrow in Charleston, South Carolina, where we're still getting some very, very strong and gusty winds. The rain appears to be slackening off a bit, but there is some damage to report, and I'll have a live update in just a moment.
Hello and welcome to this special edition of Weather Center. I'm Carl Parker. Thanks for joining us. I'll have a look at the rest of the country and Hurricane Gert.
And I'm Sharon Resulton reporting live now from the Weather Center Forecast Center, and we're going to continue to report what's happening as we look at our hurricane that is still a Category 3 hurricane, and we do have the latest coordinates to report as well. Let's go ahead and start you out first with a satellite picture. I want you to get again associated with our hurricane that continues to work its way to the north-northeast. We do have actually the latest advisories, and let me read them off to you. The latest position, 32.9 north and 78.3 west, and the movement is toward the north-northeast at 18 miles per hour. Maximum sustained winds at 115 miles per hour. The minimum central pressure up 1 millibar at 951 millibars. And again, as we look at your satellite picture here, you're going to be able to see that this thing is indeed still going strong. And let's show you the satellite if we can. There it is. And again, we'll be able to pinpoint a little bit of a northeastward movement, and we're going to talk to our specialist in just a moment, Stu Ostro, who's going to talk a little bit more about the movement. Let's go ahead and look at the hurricane warnings that remain in effect from Chincoteague, Virginia, all the way back to Fernandina Beach, Florida. And we also have tropical storm warnings in effect north of Chincoteague on up towards Sandy Hook, New Jersey, and up toward the Merrimack River in Massachusetts. Again, tropical storm watches in effect. Now, we do think that you are in the clear as far as any landfall around South Carolina, but overnight into the early part of the day, we may be talking again about some landfall somewhere perhaps around North Carolina. We'll talk more about that in a second. But tropical storm watches and warnings have been established further northward because of the general movement of this. We may see some of that effect a bit further northward, and we'll highlight that also. One more time, here's a look at the severe weather watch. It's a tornado watch in effect, and the other big threat with this is going to be the potential for flooding. And again, we're going to be looking at that very, very closely as well. Well, we have our live crew also stationed. Let's go ahead first and talk about some of the latest information that we have. Again, as we take a look in South Carolina. South Carolina again dodging the eye of Floyd, so that is certainly some good news. And as we continue, we'll talk a little bit more here. The eye of the hurricane no longer expected to come ashore here. President Clinton has also declared part of the state a disaster area. And it's now North Carolina where we think that we may have some of the problems. So we're going to be talking about that in the upcoming moments. Evacuation orders also issued earlier today for the Barrier Islands outside Wilmington and for the Outer Banks region. And hurricane-spawned tornado touched down near Wilmington earlier today. And in Virginia, schools along the state's eastern shore are closed tomorrow, and shelters will open in their place. Also, again, Governor of Florida says that the state was blessed. Hurricane Floyd won't be coming ashore in his state. Evacuation orders have been lifted in several counties, including Brevard and Volusia counties. So that's the very latest out of Florida again. Once again, we do have live crews stationed. We're going to go first to Jeff Morrow, who is live in Charleston, South Carolina. Jeff?
And good evening, Sharon. Still a very, very gusty, blustery evening. Usually blustery is a word reserved maybe for the winter time, but this wind can actually feel a little bit on the cold side when you get all that wind-driven rain there, and that it can sting a little bit too. That wind driving the rain at about 50, maybe 55 miles an hour at times. Earlier we had some really nasty wind gusts. As a matter of fact, we have some pictures we can show you of some damage that happened as we were just done with a live shot late this afternoon. It was the whole roof collapsing here and pieces of it flying everywhere on oh, okay, all right, well, thought it was the roof coming down. Evidently it was the flooding that was going on earlier. We also had some of that in Charleston as well. Let me walk over here this way, try to get out a little bit of this wind. I want to show you an example of some of the debris that is flying around out here, or was earlier. Of course, we have the tree limbs, which are coming off in major quantities, and we even have pieces of gutter. Now, of course, if you happen to get hit with something like this, it could do some major damage and very much injure you. So you got to be careful out here when the wind's this gusty. A lot of debris in the air. It's best just to stay indoors. Let's go a little bit farther up the coast where they're probably going to be seeing some similar conditions, if not now, very soon, and that's with Mike Seidel. Mike?
And Jeff, we've been expecting this kind of weather all night. We've been forecasting the brunt of Floyd, the fury of Floyd, to move in late tonight, and the eye approaching early tomorrow morning, and that's just what's happening. Winds have picked up incredibly over the past couple of hours. We're now getting wind gusts 40 to 50 miles an hour. We're kind of protected. We're here at Wrightsville Beach, just near the Causeway Bridge over to the beach. course, that's been shut down with mandatory evacuations for the second time in 3 weeks. Dennis just a few weeks ago. We're looking at a storm surge along and to the right of where the eye comes on shore. So those of you up the coast towards the Outer Banks are going to be seeing another storm surge, maybe 7, 8, maybe as high as 9 to 10 feet. Hurricane force wind gust in another hour or so, and then we could see wind gusts in excess of 100 miles an hour, along with this torrential rainfall. Already 13 inches of rain has fallen in Wilmington ahead of the hurricane. That's pretty unusual. And take a look at what the wind's doing to these trees tonight. We've got these huge deciduous trees, some oak trees over here behind us, and they are really being whipped by these winds now. We're hearing the wind howling and whistling through the crevices and the buildings here, affording us some protection. We're going to be here all night long, providing live coverage as the eye approaches the Wilmington-Wrightsville Beach area. Weather permitting, we'll have live coverage. If not, we'll run for cover and stay safe. Otherwise, stay up and stay with us, and we'll bring you the story live here from Wrightsville Beach. Sharon, back to you in Atlanta.
Okay, Mike Seidel, thank you very much, and we'll check back with you. In the meantime, our own Stu Ostro has been looking at this saga for the past few days, and it has been quite a story, right, Stu?
It sure has, Sharon. If this hurricane was a book, the first chapter was an attention getter, classic Cape Verde tropical waves, and the second chapter was a bit slow to develop. Then we had a lot of action with rapid intensification, direct hit upon some of the Bahama Islands, hopefully not too tragic a chapter there. We had a happy ending to that chapter in Florida and Georgia as they missed the worst. We had the subplot of the traffic jams from the evacuation. Now we're coming upon perhaps the climax for the United States as the landfall is approaching, and then the epilogue as the hurricane moves on across the northeast coast. Now we hope the folks in North Carolina didn't think that this was going to be too much of an anticlimax given that the hurricane is weakened. We don't think that they did. Reason for that is what's happened over the past few years. You can see Bertha, Fran, Bonnie, now Floyd, all coming upon the coast of North Carolina. I'm sure the folks there are tired of getting these hurricanes, but it's been quite a trend over the last few years. As far as the intensity is concerned, pretty comparable to Fran at this point. Fran had a pressure of 954 millibars when it came in, and the latest Hurricane Hunter report has, let's see, Floyd at 952. Here is the eye of the hurricane coming into this radar image, the eye wall right in here, and that's where the very strongest winds are, and we'll be watching that progress toward the coast over the next few hours. In terms of the tide cycle, we're coming up to high tide. It looks like it's going to be a few hours before the strongest onshore winds happen. We hope that it stalls long enough off the coast, not stalls, but waits long enough off the coast to be closer to low tide. Right now, most likely, we're looking at somewhere in between. Now, in addition to the surge itself, we have the wave potential, which is very high along this part of the coast, and we have seen and continue to see some very high wave heights just off the coast that will be coming on shore and be battering the coast on top of whatever surge happens. Another aspect of this hurricane, very, very heavy rain falling out ahead of it. We see rainfall amounts estimated by Doppler weather radar in excess of 15 inches in a few of these white spots, widespread amounts above 5 to 10 inches, and as we've heard, that has already caused some flooding problems. Sharon?
Stu, let's talk a little bit about what folks up north might expect as far as potential threat with this particular hurricane.
Well, if we look at a loop, we can see rain spreading out well in advance of the hurricane, which is now coming ashore in North Carolina. I don't know if we can go to that graphic now. If not, I'll just talk. There's rain spreading well out ahead. There we go, right up the coast. And we think this pattern on the radar is pretty much the pathway for the hurricane. It should come on shore here. Exactly where it goes, we're not sure, but somewhere along this swath that we've outlined. And the timetable is emerging off the coast here or near Tidewater somewhere later on in the day Thursday, and then Friday will be the day when it accelerates on across the northeast coast of the United States with heavy rain and wind along the coast.
And Stu, one more question. Mike Seidel, when he was doing his live report from Wrightsville Beach, was talking about the heavy rain and the wind and those huge trees. And we've already seen a lot of rain in that region because of Dennis. The ground must be saturated. What sort of effect might we expect?
Well, that does tend to loosen up the root system, and we may very well see quite a few trees come down. We have seen gusts to 86 miles per hour at Frying Pan Shoals, which is not in the eye wall yet, off the coast of North Carolina. Granted, that's over 100 feet off the water, so it might not be representative of what's going on the ground, but we do expect as that eye wall comes in some very strong wind gusts and some trees to come down.
Okay, Stu Ostro, thank you very much. And joining us in the studio now is our own Carl Parker, who's got a look at the rest of the country's weather. Carl?
Thanks very much, and we do have some active weather to talk about in parts of the southwest and also into Texas. Let's show you what's happening on the map right now. We've got a large area of high pressure and control in the midsection of the nation, so things are generally very, very quiet. But again, we do have some scattered showers and storms here in the southwest. We'll show you that in just a moment. And into the east here, all kinds of rain, of course, associated with Floyd, but we also have cooler air working on in here, and winds are coming together at the surface. We call that convergence. And as a result, we're seeing an awful lot of rain right now from Boston down into New York, right on down into D.C., and this will only increase over the next few days. So watch out for the possibility of some flooding here in these areas. As we take you back into the southwest, scattered showers and thunder showers. There's some leftover monsoonal moisture here, and with that a few strong thunderstorms now just to the east of Phoenix and right on down into Tucson as well. Most of this is working along towards the east, and we're finding some very strong cells in eastern parts of New Mexico right along 40 here and on into West Texas. So strong to severe thunderstorms, a possibility here in West Texas as well as back into the southwest. And of course we could find severe weather in the eastern part of the Carolinas here as well as into Virginia. Isolated tornadoes is a possibility as we head on through the night here. High temperatures across the country. Well, it's been fairly cool where you've had the clouds and the rain in the east here, only 72 inside the Beltway and 71 in Boston, and very cool here in the upper Midwest, only 66 in the Twin Cities today, and very warm as you might expect right along the Gulf Coast here, 93 in the Bayou City, and very hot back into the southwest. Right now temperatures in the 40s and 50s in the upper Midwest, still in the 70s in the deep south here, and we're still in the 90s in some parts of the southwest. So as we check out your forecast, of course, all eyes will be on Floyd right here. We do expect it to be inland by tomorrow morning. A lot of very, very heavy rain is possible here in the Carolinas as well as into Virginia. The storm will work along towards the north here, and with that we could find some incredibly heavy rain around D.C. and also into Philly and perhaps into Harrisburg, so watch out for that possibility, and a lot of very windy weather here in the northeast. High pressure very much in control here in the midsection of the nation, so a lot of sunshine and generally cool weather for Chicago and Minneapolis-St. Paul. And back into the southwest here, a few scattered showers and thunder showers once again during the day tomorrow. We're talking about the possibility, as you've heard, of 5 to 10 inches in the Carolinas and also on up into the Delmarva here, so watch out for that as we head into tomorrow. Overnight lows here in the 30s and 40s in the upper Midwest, 50s and 60s to the south, and your high temperatures still in the 80s here in the deep south. So as we take it region by region, very wet once again. Boston, New York, Philly, right on down into D.C. during the day tomorrow, and it will be windy too. Winds gusting to 30 and 40 miles an hour in some of the big cities here. Into the southeast we go. A lot of sunshine here. 82 degrees in Atlanta, 89 in Tampa, 90 in Houston, and 87 degrees in Dallas. And into the Midwest, 65 in Chicago, 77 in St. Louis, a beautiful, beautiful day here, 68 in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and 72 in Omaha. And finally out to the west, a few scattered showers and thunder showers possible here in the southwest once again. Otherwise, very, very nice weather. About 77 in L.A., 87 in Reno, and 80 degrees in Salt Lake City. Sharon?
Well, the government is gearing up to help people who might be affected by Hurricane Floyd. And when we come back, we're going to hear how officials are preparing to lend a hand in several ways.
Well, look at this. Young entrepreneurs selling delicious beverages. 99 cents. When I was a kid, lemonade was a lot cheaper. Of course, there's not much you can get for 99 cents these days. Oh, wait. I'm insane. There's 10, 10, 220. With 10, 10, 220, all calls up to 20 minutes are just 99 cents. And just 9 cents a minute after that, no matter when you call.
One tray cup?
Sure, why not? Delicious.
Dial 10, 10, 220.
Nice try. Now get in.
Hate painting? Lowe's knows how to help. Lowe's has everything you need to get the job done quick and easy.
All at guaranteed everyday low prices.
Our paint experts can recommend the best paint for any job, like high-quality American Traditions brand interior paint. It comes with a lifetime guarantee.
When it comes to paint, Lowe's knows.
I wanted an English garden in the living room. I wanted the kids to walk on eggshells in the dining room. But in the family room, sky's the limit. And I got it all at Sears.
For carpeting and flooring, Sears is just what you're looking for. Great selection, great service, and right now, a special sale. Sears has DuPont Stainmaster, Anso Crush Resistor, wear dated, and more. Durable, stain resistant, with installation warranted for as long as you own your home. And you know Sears will be there to back it up. We guarantee it. Plus, we offer flexible credit plans too. Just ask our consultants. They'll help you get just what you want for every room in your home. This isn't just carpeting, it's carpeting from Sears. Call now for your nearest Sears store and get 0% finance charge for 1 full year when you use a Sears credit card.
And for the breakfast room, I wanted a strong, hearty oatmeal. And I got it.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Sharon Resulton. We continue our special coverage of Hurricane Floyd, a Category 3 hurricane that may weaken only slightly before it makes landfall. Projected landfall to be overnight into the early morning hours on Thursday. And while you may miss the brunt of the storm in and around South Carolina, folks in North Carolina need to brace themselves. Again, we're going to be checking in with our own Jeff Morrow, who is reporting live from Charleston in upcoming minutes. But we'd like to start you out first with some of the latest news and information that we have for you. Earlier, we updated you on the situation in the Carolinas and Florida. States further north are also geared up for Hurricane Floyd. In the nation's capital, the D.C. public schools will be closed Thursday. Several school districts in Maryland will also be closed on Thursday. Also in the capital, the U.S. House of Representatives has suspended its legislative business for the next week. The Senate and the rest of the federal government officials will remain open. The governor of New York has placed the National Guard on 24-hour alert. The governor of Connecticut has done the same thing. Connecticut's Department of Environmental Protection plans to close state parks, boat launches, and other facilities if the forecast for Floyd remains the same. And like in other states, the Northeast, Connecticut has put additional utility crews on alert. And we may be talking about some big-time problems as far as power outages as the winds and the rain and all that continues over the next 24 to 36 hours. Let's go ahead and take a look at the latest now. We do have this for you graphically, and we've got an update as of 11 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time. Many of you are concerned and plotting at home. The center of the storm now at 32.9 north, 78.3 west, 100 miles south-southwest of Wilmington, North Carolina. Sustained winds are 115 miles per hour, so again, still a Category 3 hurricane. Moving to the north-northeast at 18 miles per hour, the central pressure at 952 millibars. So again, this has gone up 1 millibar from the previous advisory. Again, an indication that this continues to weaken a bit, but it is still going to be a very formidable force as it approaches land and makes landfall. All right, let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about what's going on with the hurricane just before leaving Hawaii and to return to Washington. President Clinton declared North and South Carolina disaster areas. Here are President Clinton's comments.
I've just spoken with both Governor Hunt of North Carolina and Governor Hodges of South Carolina. I've assured them that we would do everything we can to help them, and they've given me updates on the problems that they expect to encounter, particularly problems for the farmers in those areas.
Earlier today, FEMA Director Dr. James Lee Witt talked about serious effect of storm surge as Floyd approaches the eastern coastline.
This is going to cause some really serious flooding, and we're very concerned about this, and just ask people to watch this very closely. And if you're in low-lying areas and have not evacuated, you need to take heed and do so as they've asked you to do.
Well, Hurricane Floyd is bad news for folks in the East Coast, but good news for taxpayers. Let me tell you why. The IRS has given a 15-day extension to taxpayers in affected areas. Corporate partnership or fiduciary returns that were due today can be filed by September 30th without penalty. The IRS is also suspending audits, seizures, and levies until October 15th for federal disaster areas. And taxpayers there may claim uninsured casualty losses by putting Hurricane Floyd on an amended 1998 return or on their 1999 forms. We promised you a live update now out of Charleston, South Carolina. Our own Jeff Morrow is standing by. Jeff?
Yes, indeed, Sharon, and it continues to be quite blustery, although the wind has come down. It was about 2, maybe 3 hours ago we saw the worst of what Floyd had to give this part of the low coast, the low country here in South Carolina, with some very gusty winds. Now I have to estimate here because I don't have an anemometer, but I would say that some of the winds were gusting at least to hurricane force, and there was some minor, I'd call it minor structural damage. There were some light poles that did get blown over. In our area, we had some pieces of a nearby warehouse that holds some boats for the nearby marina. Part of that came peeling off. Part of a roof of another hotel across the way came off. And again, it was just a little bit here and there. A lot of power flashes, the transformers blowing up with a big green flash. Power is out still in our area, although it looks like it's been restored to parts of downtown Charleston. So overall, with this kind of glancing blow that we've gotten from Floyd, it obviously could have been a lot worse if we'd taken a direct hit, but it's still all in all a very nasty night to be out and about here in the low country.
I imagine not very many folks are out and about. Everyone pretty well hunkered down or left town entirely.
I'd say most of them left town entirely. Now that's a whole other can of worms that we can get into. It's actually quite controversial here what happened with the whole evacuation process of how only 2 lanes of I-26 were open, and there was just unbelievable traffic jams of people trying to get out of the low country. They heeded the evacuation, but they ran into big problems, some people being stuck for 5 and 6 and 7 hours until they finally opened the southbound lanes as well, and that finally freed things up. But like you said, most people have left this area and have gone inland, so there really isn't too many people left behind here, at least now, and that's actually good news.
Okay, Jeff, try and get a little rest in between the live shots here, and we'll check back with you in a few minutes.
Alrighty.
Okay. We're going to take it back to the studio now. We do have another hurricane out there. Many of you along the eastern seaboard are concerned about Gert. With the very latest on Gert, we'll take it back to the studio with Carl.
And Gert is still a very strong hurricane at this point. You can see an eye right there, just east and northeast of the Lesser Antilles right here. Let's show you the latest conditions. The wind's now 150 miles an hour. That is a very strong storm, moving to the west at 10, centered at 17.9 and 51.2. As we look at the storm right here, it is undergoing a little bit in the way of some changes here. We're seeing a little bit of dry air here in the north and western side, and there might be some upwelling as the storm moves along here. Of course, Floyd was in this region churning up the water, and for that reason there might be some cooler water near the surface here, and that may weaken the storm a little bit. Now in the short term here, we think it will turn towards the north and towards the west here, staying out over the open water and away from the Lesser Antilles. That's the way that it looks right now, but that could change, of course. Here are the players. We have our hurricane, of course, right here. Here are the Lesser Antilles. You have Puerto Rico and Hispaniola right there. There is an upper level low right there. And we think that will initially turn this thing towards the north and towards the west, and that eventually it will be picked up by the big trough that is now in the east, and that would keep it out over the open water. It is possible, though, that it does not do that, and it continues along towards the west-northwest here, so we'll have to watch it very, very carefully over the next couple of days. A lot of rain right now in the Carolinas, of course, and also down into parts of Virginia and right on up the eastern seaboard here. That is likely to happen again tomorrow as we head on into your weekend. Very, very heavy rain here in the eastern seaboard tomorrow. Very windy, winds 30, 40, maybe even 50 miles an hour in some places. And there certainly will be some flooding problems right around D.C. and also into New York possibly later in the day. So watch out for that as the storm continues to lift along towards the north. We'll find thunderstorms here in the parts of the Central Plains and back here into the southern Rockies. As we get on into Friday, the storm lifts out towards the northeast here, so fairly wet weather in New England and perhaps lingering into New York and on into Boston, and scattered showers and thunder showers back here in the southwest, but very, very clear here through the midsection of the nation. By the time Sunday rolls around, our storm will completely lift on out, so things looking very good indeed. Scattered showers and thunder showers, a pretty good bet here in the midsection of the nation, though. As another trough dives on down, we'll see some cooler weather once again for the upper Midwest, and generally very warm and very humid weather into the southwest. And that is a look at your weekend. Sharon?
Thanks, Carl. A reminder, we will be back with continuing coverage on Hurricane Floyd. If you would like to know more but happen to be away from your television, you can always reach us online at weather.com. We'll be back.
It must rain 9 to 10 inches for every Laura Ashley peony to bloom. It must be perpetually misty for hedgerows to turn true green. It must be cloudy and damp for a garden rose to flourish. Aren't you glad you don't have to live in England to enjoy the countryside? Laura Ashley Home, now only as far away as Lowe's.
I've always been set in my ways. So when Subaru told me they were changing my Outback, I was a tad concerned. Truth is, they just made it better. This next generation Outback's got a stylish new body, quieter ride, and their best all-wheel driving system ever. Sort of inspired me to make a few changes. I think this works. The new Outback, the world's first sport utility wagon from Subaru.
Test drive the beauty of all-wheel drive at a Subaru dealer near you.
Princess, what you doing?
When I kiss this frog, he will turn into a handsome prince and we will live happily ever after.
Wouldn't you rather have some Honey Nut Cheerios?
Maybe we should just be friends.
Honey Nut Cheerios, they're irresistible. You're not really a prince, are you?
No.
Now when you feed your kids, feed their minds. Get free Microsoft software and a free month of internet access. Details on marked boxes.
You are looking at Hurricane Floyd. This powerful hurricane is only hours from making landfall in the United States. Floyd's fury devastated parts of the Bahamas as the hurricane moved through. As you can see, the damage is terrible. The hurricane has already left its mark on Florida. It damaged about 100 feet of this century-old pier in Daytona Beach. And Floyd may still be at sea, but heavy rains are causing flooding up and down the eastern seaboard. Hello and welcome to this special edition.
For joining us. We have our continuing coverage of Hurricane Floyd. Let me update you on the very latest. And again, still a Category 3 hurricane that we continue to keep a very close eye on. It looks like South Carolina will most likely not bear the brunt of the hurricane. However, you're still getting some very strong winds and very heavy rain. But landfall, we think, will occur just a bit further northward. And as we take you on into North Carolina during the overnight and certainly on into your Thursday, we think that that's about the time when landfall will occur. Well, we have a lot to talk about here. Let's start you out first, and hopefully we'll get you the latest here. The 11 o'clock advisory is out, and I can read you the latest coordinates if you are plotting at home. It is centered now at 32.9 north, 78.3 west. The movement is toward the north-northeast at 18 miles per hour, maximum sustained winds at 115, and the central pressure at 951 millibars. And I think it's actually gone up to about 952 millibars. It's gone up a couple of millibars, which is again a sign that this is slowly weakening, and that trend has been occurring as we've seen actually the pressure go up quite a bit throughout the course of the day. So that is something that is good news in the sense that we're finding that weakening trend, and it's possible that it could weaken still further before it actually makes landfall. Let's go ahead and give you the very latest now as we take you state by state and let you know what's happening here. Again, Floyd has weakened to a Category 3. It remains powerful. The eye of the hurricane no longer expected to come ashore in South Carolina, so that is some good news. President Clinton has already declared part of the state a disaster area, and it is now North Carolina where Hurricane Floyd is expected to come ashore. Again, that would be sometime late tonight or tomorrow, and already folks in parts of that state are seeing the severe flooding. Thousands of North Carolinians are hurrying inland, packing the highways for a second straight day. Evacuation orders were issued today for the barrier islands outside of Wilmington and the Outer Banks. Hurricane spawned tornadoes touched down near Wilmington earlier today, and we have a couple more tornado warnings to report as we head into North Carolina, so still the potential for severe weather. Evacuation orders have been lifted in several counties, including Brevard and Volusia counties as well. And again, it's just going to be a very long night for folks as we head out and along the eastern seaboard. So there will be a lot to talk about as we go through the overnight into the early morning. We have, again, our live crew, and we're going to go first to Jeff Morrow, who is stationed in Charleston, South Carolina. And Jeff, the rain letting up at least temporarily, but the wind's still howling.
Yeah, the wind is still pretty strong, Sharon. It's been gusty all evening long. It really kind of built during the afternoon. We didn't have too much during the morning, just a little bit of light rain. Early in the afternoon, it started to get going, some wind gusts to maybe 30 or 35. And then as we headed later into the afternoon, when we took our break between about 1 and 4, it really started to howl outside, and we had some gusts well over 50 and maybe 60. And then this evening, it really got going with some gusts probably to hurricane force, and that's what's caused the little bit of, I would call it, fairly minor structural damage to some light posts and to some of the awnings here. Let's show you some other damage that we found in the front of one of the hotels here. Again, the sliding glass doors right in the front were literally blown off their hinges, and a lot of glass blown all over the place. There's going to definitely have to be some reconstruction done there. A couple of those glass doors came off, a couple of other of them were askew. So again, what I guess I would term minor to moderate structural damage here. Nothing really bad to the actual structures of the building. Haven't seen any windows blown out of any of these hotels rooms, which is definitely some good news. Just some power poles down, and the power is still out in this area. So probably more of an inconvenience and kind of a big nuisance more than anything else. But of course, it could have been a lot worse, Sharon, and we're very, very grateful that this hurricane kind of sideswiped the low country. Let's go a little bit farther up the coast, and Mike Seidel is standing by in Wilmington. And Mike, I imagine you'll probably get a lot of what we've been seeing.
And we're starting to get that right now, Jeff. We're here at Wrightsville Beach, just off to the east of Wilmington, and we're at the Causeway Bridge. We're a little protected from what's going to be moving in overnight tonight. We expect landfall not far from here, if not right here at Wrightsville Beach, about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning based on the current forecast track and timing. Winds are really howling now, gusting 40, 50 miles an hour, likely to be gusting higher out on the beaches. We're about a mile or so from the Atlantic. The big problem so far has been heavy rainfalls, 13 inches plus at Wilmington, and more coming down tonight. A lot of low-lying flooding. We came up on Highway 17 from Myrtle Beach around dinner time, and the southbound lanes were impassable. A lot of areas were under as much as 3 to 4 feet of water. What you see is what you get for the rest of tonight, more torrential tropical downpours. We expect wind gusts later on to exceed 100 miles an hour as the eye wall of Hurricane Floyd draws closer to an area which has been hit hard just a few weeks ago by Dennis. And over the past couple of years, we've got Bertha, we've got Fran. Last year we had Bonnie. So everybody evacuated, they're used to this, they're boarded up. And I wouldn't be surprised to see power outages overnight and some structural damage as these winds continue to pick up very, very quickly over the next couple of hours, as well as the rain continues to come down as these bands move in off the Atlantic in advance of Hurricane Floyd. Rough night. We'll be here broadcasting live as long as we can get the signal out. Back to you, Sharon.
Thanks, Mike. No doubt folks will be waking up to a different picture Thursday morning. Thank you very much. All right. Let's go ahead now and go to our senior weather specialist, Stu Ostro. And Stu, what can you say about the intensity of Floyd at this time?
Well, Sharon, it's perhaps a case of the glass either being half full or half empty. On the one hand, it's a much different hurricane than if it was, say, barely a hurricane with a central pressure of 990 millibars. On the other hand, it's a much different hurricane than it was a couple of days ago when it was a borderline Category 5, and we're very thankful for that. We can see a reflection of that change in intensity by looking at the satellite loop going back about 24 hours or so. You see at the very beginning, first of all, here it is coming a little closer to the coast. Then about 24 hours ago, right there, you see all the deep yellows and oranges and reds in a very symmetrical fashion. They've dwindled a little bit. Overall, the convection, as we call it, around the eye of the hurricane, a little more ragged. And that has been reflected not only in the rise of the central pressure, but also the decrease of the winds. The other thing we notice in the satellite photo here is if we connect these dots of where it's been, it curved up, wobbled a little bit to the east, maybe back a little bit to the north now. The fact that it made this bend right about in here has been good news for the most part for the state of South Carolina, as it's wobbled a little bit more to the east. But what's good news for one state is not necessarily good news for another. And in this case, if it had any chance, as it might have for a while, of perhaps even swerving away and having the worst part of the hurricane miss the coast entirely, looks like it's lost that chance. It is wobbling just a little bit more to the north. And if we look at the radar, or first let's take a look at another version of the satellite without the color, and you can see that the eye is a little more filled with clouds, another sign of weakening, as it heads pretty close to Wilmington over the next few hours. The radar shows this more closely. We can see the eye of the hurricane, again, looking a little more ragged. Still a formidable northern eye wall underneath these yellows and dark blues is where the strongest winds are. That'll be approaching the coast, should come on shore, say within the next 3 hours or so, next 2 to 3 hours, and it's within this area again that the strongest winds will happen. Also the winds a good distance away from the center. On the one hand, it is important where the center goes. On the other hand, this is a very large hurricane, and there can be plenty of dangerous weather well away from the center of circulation. In terms of the tides, looks like the biggest surge will come sometime in the middle of the night, maybe trending a little bit more toward low tide, which would be good news. We're just about to high tide right now in just a few minutes. Another factor with the storm, very heavy rainfall. We see the white dots in here, over 15 inches of rain. That can flood roads. Be very careful if you're out and about. Hopefully not too many people doing that, but if you do have to drive, particularly over the interior, watch out for flooded roads. You don't know how deep the water is. It can also help cause trees to fall over when those strong winds come on shore, as they will pretty soon. Sharon?
Stu, question for you now. Folks in East Florida are wondering if they can take the boards down that they spent all that time putting on the windows, but there is still GERD out there in the Atlantic.
Well, we indeed have GERD in the Atlantic. The good news is at the moment that most of the indications that we have are that GERD will move to the west for a while, but then curve a little bit more to the northwest. We can take a look at GERD quickly here, and we see the, let's see, do we have the satellite photo? Well, we have GERD out there. There it is. And you can see that little, almost like a pinhole of an eye right in the middle. GERD, a very intense hurricane. Looks like the ridge of high pressure to the north of it will have a weakness over here, which will help provide a pathway for GERD to move just north of the islands. Until that happens, we'll have to watch it very closely. But odds favor it's staying out to sea, not only in terms of the Caribbean islands, but in terms of the east coast of the United States.
Our question then on the subject of Floyd, let's talk a little bit more about the surge and the waves and what people might expect.
Well, we will have a surge in the range of, say, 7, 8 feet, up to 10 or 11, depending on the location. That is the actual water level rise produced by the winds. Now, on top of that, we have large battering waves. This stretch of the coastline in North Carolina and northern South Carolina is very susceptible to very high waves. This hurricane has had a large wind field. It has been a very intense hurricane. We have very large wave heights. That contributes to a little additional water level rise. So those beachfront structures on some of the barrier islands near and to the right of where the eye comes on shore could be in quite a bit of trouble here over the next several hours. Hopefully, again, it'll be far enough away from high tide that will minimize things a bit.
Stu Ostro, Senior Weather Specialist, thank you very much for your expertise. And we're going to take it back to the studio. I'm sure you're curious to know what the rest of the nation's weather's like. Carl's standing by.
And we do have a few big storms to tell you about in parts of New Mexico and also into Texas, and generally very quiet weather across much of the midsection of the nation. Let's take a look at what's going on right now. Again, high pressure centered right in the north central plains, and with that, just beautiful and cool weather in place today, and it will be for some time. And here into the southwest, scattered showers and thunder showers, some lingering monsoonal moisture here, and we'll take a closer look at that in just a moment. Into the east here, a lot of the moisture associated with Floyd is moving up the east coast, and we have a trough of low pressure right here lifting that moisture, and as a result, a lot of very heavy rain now beginning to spread in some of the bigger cities. We're talking about D.C. and Baltimore, as well as into Philly and New York and Boston, and it is only going to get wetter over the next few days as Floyd continues to move on up the coast here. Back into the southwest, scattered showers and thunder showers, again in New Mexico and into Texas and also into parts of Arizona here. Things seem to be quieting down a little bit as we get into Arizona here. A few cells lingering right around Phoenix, and also some rain on down into Tucson, right along I-10. And we're finding some fairly strong thunderstorms now into eastern New Mexico, right along I-40 here, as well as just east of Roswell and toward Lubbock in the western part of Texas. And it looks like these will continue for the next few hours here. So strong to severe thunderstorms, a possibility here in the southwest, and we'll certainly find some active weather here in the East Coast, right around the Carolinas. Isolated tornadoes are a possibility tonight as Floyd continues to work on shore here. High temperatures are fairly cool here in the Northeast, as you might expect with the clouds and the rain. Only 72 inside the Beltway, 71 in New York and 71 in Boston. Very cool here in the upper Midwest, 67 in Chicago and 66 in Minneapolis, St. Paul. And warm weather down here to the south, and that will likely continue as we head on into tomorrow as well. Right now we're at 51 Minneapolis, St. Paul, 75 in Atlanta, and 75 in the Bayou City. So tomorrow again, Floyd continues to work on up the coast here. Very, very heavy rain, a possibility in the mid-Atlantic region. There could be some flooding problems here. Certainly a lot of wind, and tornadoes will still be a threat as the storm moves towards the north here. And again, it looks like it's going to be very wet for the big cities during the day tomorrow as that storm lifts on up the coast. High pressure and control here in the Midwest. Beautiful weather. Chicago right on down into Dallas. Fairly hot here in the south central plains still. And we'll find scattered showers and thunder showers into the southwest through tonight and perhaps into tomorrow. 5 to 10 inches of rain possible in the Carolinas tonight, as well as Virginia, so watch out again for some flooding problems here. As we look at overnight lows, fairly cool to the north, 30s in some locations, 40s widespread, and tomorrow 60s and 70s in the northeast and midwest, 80s to the south, and still warm through much of the west. 70 degrees in Washington tomorrow, 72 in Philly, very rainy and very windy here along the eastern seaboard. Into the southeast, not too bad at all. 82 in Atlanta, still fairly windy. Into parts of the southeast here, 89 in Tampa and 90 in the Bayou City. 65 in Chicago tomorrow, a lot of sunshine here. 77 St. Louis, 77 in Omaha. And finally, as we take you out to the west, scattered showers in the southwest once again, about 68 in Denver, 80 in Salt Lake City, and 77 in LA. Sharon?
Well, the government is gearing up to help folks who are affected by Hurricane Floyd. And when we come back, we'll hear how officials are preparing to lend a hand in several ways.
Michelin would like to remind you, there's only one safety feature on the road that actually touches the road. Michelin, because so much is riding on your tires.
Buy 4 Michelin tires now and get a free emergency roadside kit. Play the Michelin Buy 4 and Score game and maybe win a Dodge Viper, plus other great prizes. See your participating Michelin dealer by October 31st.
Buy 4 and Score with Michelin at a participating dealer near you.
I'll be right back with your new low Geico rate. Great. I can save you over $250.
Every week, 10,000 drivers switch their car insurance to Geico. We take all the necessary precautions. Geico Direct. A 15-minute call could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Busy day.
What?
What if you could turn ordinary rooms into extraordinary rooms, quickly, easily, and inexpensively? Now, anyone can create beautiful rooms with the Easy Living Wall Concepts decorating system from Sears. With Wall Concepts, you'll have everything you need to create marvelous decorator looks in your home. Transform your walls with wonderful patterns and textured designs. Color wash like this, marbleizing, sponge effects, striping, and many more for a beautiful custom finish. Sears Easy Living Wall Concept System is a great value at only $39.99. Just add Easy Living paint and you're on your way to beautiful new rooms. The easy-to-use tools, how-to video, and the Easy Living color guide are everything you need for beautiful results. Give your rooms a fabulous designer look with the Easy Living Wall Concept System from Sears.
Call 1-800-577-9922 right now.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Sharon Result, and we continue our coverage on Hurricane Floyd, which is likely to make landfall during the overnight or early Thursday. And while you will not bear the brunt of this storm in areas like Charleston, South Carolina, we think that landfall will occur a bit further northward up into North Carolina, and we'll highlight that again in just a moment. Let's start you out first with the coordinates. Get your bearings here. The very latest now on Floyd. And again, earlier we updated you on the situation in the Carolinas and Florida. States further north are also geared up for Hurricane Floyd. In the nation's capital, the D.C. public schools will be closed on Thursday. Several school districts in Maryland will also be closed. Also on the Capitol, the U.S. House of Representatives has suspended its legislative business for the next week. And the Senate and the rest of the federal government officials will remain open. The governor of New York has placed the National Guard on 24-hour alert. The governor of Connecticut has done the same thing. Connecticut's Department of Environmental Protection plans to close state parks, boat launches, and other facilities if the forecast for Floyd remains the same. And like other states in the Northeast, Connecticut has put additional utility crews on alert. Now, as we go ahead and look at the latest on Floyd, as of at 11 o'clock, it is centered at 32.9 north, 78.3 west, 100 miles south-southwest of Wilmington, North Carolina, 115 mile-per-hour winds, so it is still a Category 3. It is moving to the north-northeast at 18 miles per hour, the central pressure at 952 millibars, and it has been steadily rising, which again is a sign that this is steadily weakening, so that is certainly a piece of good news. Well, let's go ahead and take a look just before leaving Hawaii to return to Washington, D.C. President Clinton declared North and South Carolina disaster areas, and here are some of his remarks.
Arms away. Meanwhile, we
not have that. Earlier today, though, FEMA Director James Lee Witt talked about serious effect of storm surge as Floyd approached the eastern coastline.
This is going to cause some really, really serious flooding, and we're very concerned about this, and just ask people to watch this very closely And if you're in low-lying areas and have not evacuated, you need to take heed and do so as they've asked you to do.
The hurricane may be bad news for folks along the East Coast, but it's good news for taxpayers. Let me tell you why. The IRS has given a 15-day extension to taxpayers in affected areas. Corporate partnership or fiduciary returns that were due today can be filed by September 30th without penalty. The IRS is also suspending audits, seizures, and levies until October 15th for the federal disaster areas. And taxpayers there may claim uninsured casualty losses by putting Hurricane Floyd on an amended 1998 return or on their 1999 forms. Well, we do have our live crew stationed along the East Coast. This go around, we're going to take it to our own Mike Seidel in Wilmington, or actually in Wrightsville Beach, in North Carolina. And Mike, tell us a little bit about how conditions have changed just over the past few hours.
Sharon, we've seen the weather really get rough here over the past couple of hours. The wind is howling now, swirling around the building. Now, we're not getting the full brunt where I'm standing because we're protected by these buildings. We're trying to protect our satellite truck, and we're trying to protect ourselves. But if I went around the corner here behind this vegetation, I would get literally blown down the street. We're getting gusts now in excess of 50, if not 60 miles an hour. We're here at Wrightsville Beach, just at the causeway. We can't go over to the beachfront. That has been evacuated, and based on what I can see across here, it looks like they've turned the power off, which is the same thing they did with Dennis just a few weeks ago.
Mike, maybe they turned the power off, maybe the power is out. Have you had any word on power outages, any trees coming down because of the rain and wind?
Well, the wind has not been a major problem except over the past couple of hours. The big problem here, Sharon, has been the excessive rainfall. Over a foot of rain around Wilmington, well in advance of the hurricane. If you talk about any of the wacky things we've seen with this storm, it's the fact that we've had over a foot of rain, and now we're beginning to get the real brunt and maybe the eye wall later tonight of Floyd. So the wind is picking up. We expect those power outages and at least some structural damage, especially along the beachfront, but so far so good. The power here on this side of the causeway is still on. Of course, our lights are being driven by the truck's generator, so we'll have light all night. By the way, we're going to stick around as long as we can get our signal out based on the weather conditions. So if you want to stay up and see what it looks like, the eye wall may move over us later on tonight, say 4 or 5 in the morning. In the meantime, it's just it's going to be another rough night, especially in the beaches, Sharon, because they took a real beating with Dennis, a lot of beach erosion, and that's what's occurring right now as the tide comes in over the next couple of hours.
Okay, Mike Seidel, we'll stick with you, and we'll report back with you in a few minutes. Thank you. All right, let's go ahead and take it now to back to the studio. Carl is standing by, and he has the absolute latest on Gert.
That's right. We have another area of concern right here. This is Hurricane Gert. This is also a very large and a very powerful storm. You can clearly see the eye right there. It is now just north and east of the Lesser Antilles. And here are the very latest numbers for you. It is now centered at 17.951.2. The wind's 150 miles an hour. That is a Category 4 storm. It is moving to the west at 10 miles an hour, the central pressure 933 millibars. Now, it has been undergoing some changes. We are seeing a little bit of dry here to the north and to the west of the eye here. Still a lot of very, very deep convection around the center of the storm. Very healthy outflow at this point. As it continues to work along towards the west here, it's going to be moving into water that has been churned up by Floyd. So it's possible that it will lose some strength as that happens. And we think it will move along towards the north and towards the west here and away from the Lesser Antilles and the Leeward Islands. That's the way that it looks right now, but that could change. Here are the players right here. We have an upper level low, now just north of Hispaniola and also Puerto Rico, and we think that this will draw the storm towards the north and towards the west, and eventually it will continue to work along towards the north and stay out over the open water. That's what it looks like right now, but that could change. It could continue along towards the west-northwest here, and it's just one of those situations we'll have to watch very, very carefully. Now, as we take a look at your forecast going into the weekend, of course, a lot of very heavy rain here, stormy weather associated with Floyd as it moves on shore. Notice all the rain a little farther to the north now through much of Virginia and into Maryland and New Jersey. That's going to continue into tomorrow. Look for a very, very wet and windy day here in D.C. and into New York and on into Boston as well. Scattered thunderstorms back here into the Central Plains and the Southern Rockies. And as Friday rolls around, we'll see more of this action as we get into the New England area here. Fairly heavy rain and very windy weather. Good looking weather through much of the midsection of the nation though, and scattered showers and thunder showers into the southwest. By Saturday, our storm finally lifts on out. Good looking weather for much of the eastern half of the country and still some lingering showers for the southwest here. Sharon?
Carl, thank you. We continue our expanded coverage of Hurricane Floyd. We'll be back in a few minutes. A quick reminder, if you're away from your television, you can hop on your PC and type in weather.com for the very latest. We will be right back.
Gotta stop right there. Good girl. Today, I'm giving my daughter her first driving lesson. I'm Howard Simpson, auto insurance expert for Liberty Mutual. Teenagers are more likely to have an accident than anyone else. That's why I volunteer to teach kids road safety long before they get their license. Let's go, let's go. Whether it's teaching kids in high school or training professionals, we do whatever it takes to make roads safer.
At Liberty Mutual, we have hundreds of experts helping you live a safer, more secure life. It's insurance in action.
You're never too old to learn.
For more information, visit our website at www.libertymutual.com.
It must rain 9 to 10 inches for every Laura Ashley peony to bloom. It must be perpetually misty for hedgerows to turn true green. It must be cloudy and damp for garden rose to flourish. Aren't you glad you don't have to live in England to enjoy the countryside? Laura Ashley Home, now only as far away as Lowe's.
Before you go out and rent a carpet shampooer, get the Dirt Devil Easy Steamer, the lightest, easiest, most compact carpet cleaner. The Easy Steamer gives you deep cleaning power you can see, with a motorized brush that agitates and lifts stains and everyday dirt right out of your carpet, upholstery, or stairs. For professional results at home, get the Easy Steamer, because nothing escapes the power of a Dirt Devil.
It's time for E-Trade, the #1 place to invest online.
Hurricane Floyd has finally made landfall. We are closely watching the storm's progress from the Weather Channel and from the field.
And this is Mike Seidel live at Wrightsville Beach. The eye of Hurricane Floyd is sitting right over us. That's why the wind has gone calm. I'll have more in a live report coming up in just a moment.
And these are scenes from Charleston, South Carolina on Wednesday. Look at the damage the winds caused. Good morning and welcome to the Weather Center. I am Will Annan. Once again, we'd like to remind everybody that the weather classroom is now being preempted because of our continuous coverage of Hurricane Floyd. But right now we're going to get the very latest update on our top story, and that is Hurricane Floyd. And for that, we turn to Cheryl Lemke. She's in the Forecast Center.
Well, Will, this morning we're watching very closely Hurricane Floyd as it continues to bear down on North Carolina. It has weakened. It is now a Category 2 hurricane, but still a very powerful and a very dangerous hurricane, no doubt about that. Let's check out the latest information. Again, Hurricane Floyd now down to a Category 2. A hurricane warning remains in effect this morning, stretching from South Carolina northward towards Delaware. A tropical storm warning extends from the Delaware coast to Massachusetts. Right now, the center of the storm is over the coast of North Carolina. And there are dozens of counties, mainly in North Carolina, that are facing flood warnings this morning. And preliminary estimates suggest damage from Floyd will range between $2 to $3.5 billion. So we are looking at a very devastating hurricane, no doubt about that. Here's the latest that we have on Hurricane Floyd. Right now, the center of circulation very close to Cape Fear, North Carolina. It is still packing winds of 110 miles per hour. That makes it a very strong Category 2 hurricane. It is now moving to the north-northeast at some 20 miles per hour, and that general movement is expected throughout the day today. And the pressure now down to 956 millibars, so we are hoping that this hurricane will continue to weaken as it interacts with the land. Now, at this point, we are having hurricane warnings, as we were mentioning, from Edisto Beach, South Carolina, and extending northward towards Cape Henlopen in Delaware. Just north of there, though, tropical storm warnings in effect from Cape Henlopen and running northward towards southern parts of New England, including the Cape Cod, Boston area. Now, this does mean that within today, sometime possibly later this morning or early this afternoon, tropical storm force winds will start to be felt along the coast. So we're talking about winds gusting over 40 miles per hour or higher around this general region. So certainly the weather will be deteriorating across the mid-Atlantic and eventually the Northeast as well. Now, oftentimes when tropical systems do make landfall, they can spawn tornadoes and lots of severe weather. So of utmost concern, we are watching for the possibility of tornadoes. And a tornado watch continues right now for portions of Virginia as well as for most of eastern sections of North Carolina. We've also seen some tremendously heavy rainfall with this particular system. We've had some reports around the Wilmington area of about 15 inches or higher, unofficial reports of nearly 20 inches of rain. So some really soaking downpours right now pounding the Carolinas, and all this heavy tropical rain will start to migrate northward throughout the day. Hence, we have flash flood watches in effect for a large part of the Northeast, including southern New England, as again the weather will steadily be going downhill throughout the course of your day. Now, we've been monitoring this hurricane very closely, not only here in the studios, but also live in the field. And we have our very own reporter, Mike Seidel, who's been covering the storm from Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina. Good morning, Mike. What's the latest from your perspective?
And good morning, Cheryl. Well, we've been talking about it all night, awaiting the arrival of the eye of Hurricane Floyd, and it's here. Now, it's a rather diffuse eye. That's why it's still raining a little bit, and we're not seeing the stars. But nonetheless, the winds are dead calm right now. And another thing we notice, which is very typical when you get into the eye, the temperature rises because of all the compensating substance or the sinking air, which causes the air to warm up, kind of like the old Chinook effect, because in the eye wall you have very strong updrafts. That's why you get the very torrential downpours. But in the eye center of the storm, in the eye itself, the air is sinking, and the temperature has actually gone up from about 72 to about 78 unofficially with my thermometer. So a couple of things you notice here, and the winds are calm, but they will pick up again. They'll be blowing offshore from the north and northwest. Myrtle Beach reporting winds gusting in excess of 40 miles an hour blowing offshore, and that will blow the tidal surge back. By the way, I just talked to a couple residents who own this property, and the water, by the way, came up as high as it did with Fran in 1996. However, the bottom line right now, the gut feeling from those residents and those of us who were here is the damage is not going to be as bad as it was during Fran a little over 3 years ago. But the water is still very high. It's beginning to recede, and we'll see that water continuing to recede as the winds especially start to blow off to the north and northwest. Cheryl, it's been quite a night, but at least the worst here in Wrightsville Beach is over with. Back to you.
Thanks, Mike. We appreciate the update. And of course, we'll be checking periodically with Mike Seidel throughout the rest of the morning hours. In the meanwhile, we want to switch gears, going from Mike Seidel to our very own weather specialist, senior weather specialist Stu Ostro. Stu, what's the latest from your end?
Well, Cheryl, the center of circulation has now decidedly made landfall. It's been skirting along the coast for the last hour or so. It'll go down in the record books as having made landfall somewhere in the 3 to 4 a.m. Eastern time range. We have several aspects of this hurricane we want to talk about, not only the wind and surge, but also the rain, and we'll get to that in a moment. We've tracked the storm along here on the satellite loop. I've already drawn the line in it, showing how it paralleled the Florida coast. It made the turn earlier today, which spared the worst effects for the state of South Carolina. Then it wobbled a little more directly north toward Wilmington, a little bit to the northeast, now a little bit to the north. But if you smooth it out, it was north, then north-northeast since then, and we think that that trend will continue with some additional acceleration as we go through the day. A look at the radar. Here we see at the beginning of this loop about 4 hours ago, the eye, we could call it an eye then, and the center of circulation very well defined. Now not nearly as well defined due to a combination of the weakening that was already occurring over the water and now additional and more rapid weakening now that it's interacting with land. But the center of circulation, as I mentioned, skirting along the coast, now coming inland. Still some very, very heavy rains, not only along the immediate coast, but extending well inland. As far as wind damage, with the hurricane weakening, obviously now as it goes from Category 2, which it was when it came on shore, to pretty soon to a Category 1 and eventually a tropical storm, we're not talking about wind damage nearly what we could have had up in here, or either what we might have had right at the point of landfall, a little more moderate to extensive wind damage. But keep in mind, with all the extreme rainfall that has fallen, some of those trees with a weakened root system can still come down, so be careful out there. The rain, that is really becoming a serious situation. Pass along one flash flood statement out of the Raleigh National Weather Service office, major flooding in Halifax County. Let's see, nursing home in Scotland Neck has been evacuated. Main streets in Scotland Neck impassable with waist-deep water. Trailer park in southern Roanoke Rapids was completely flooded, people being rescued. And undoubtedly this is being repeated elsewhere, at least in terms of some potentially serious flooding. So please be careful out there with the rising water. Cheryl?
Thanks, Stu. We appreciate the update. Now, Stu has mentioned we've had some very, very strong winds along the coast. We had a report coming in now from Topsail Beach, North Carolina. Peak wind gusts this morning up to 105 miles per hour. So again, strong winds, heavy rains, and certainly some pounding waves crashing across North Carolina as Hurricane Floyd continues to make its landfall. Well, stay tuned to the Weather Channel. We'll have more updates throughout the morning hours. And if you're ever away from your TV set, check us out online at weather.com. And now let's check out the weather scene for the rest of the nation. And with more about that, we go to the studios and Will Annan.
Thanks a lot, Cheryl. We'll talk about, once again, some of that heavy rainfall for the Mid-Atlantic on northbound. That's going to stick around much of New England, at least for the next couple of days. The great news, by the time the weekend rolls around, it should be some fabulous weather for New York City and Philly, getting up towards Boston, Mass. Floyd is going to be gone. We're back to some lighter winds, and the sunshine is going to be around. And they're going to be liking some fall-like temperatures as well. Back towards the west, looks like more sunshine in the forecast for you folks around the Midwest today, and also throughout much of the Pacific Northwest, where it's going to be another dry one. So if you are going to be traveling on I-5 all the way down to California through the Grapevine, looks like it's going to be fine. Otherwise, you can see we, for the second day in a row, around Phoenix and Tucson, intense thunderstorms were roaming around the area. Same thing for New Mexico and beginning to move into northwestern Texas too. For the upcoming day today, as you take a look at Thursday, well, we're going to be looking at some more strong storms perhaps, maybe a couple of isolated storms, northwestern Texas, much of New Mexico, maybe beginning to move away from the Phoenix and Tucson area, but don't rule that out. Also looking at some isolated tornadoes and severe storms all the way covering just about all of New Jersey, much of southeastern Pennsylvania, and eastern North Carolina. And the winds is going to be a problem too. We've got some strong gusty winds. It could be gusting as high as 80 miles per hour for the east coast of North Carolina, but otherwise we'll follow the effects and also what's going to be happening with soon-to-be tropical storm Floyd later on this afternoon, but with it will still come some very heavy rainfall. Continuous coverage on Floyd is yet to come. Stay with us.
The Weather Channel is brought to you by this cable or satellite provider.
Good morning as we continue our coverage on Hurricane Floyd. Right now, the hurricane has weakened from what it was yesterday, but it's still a very, very powerful hurricane. It is still classified as a very strong, a very potent Category 2 hurricane. Here's the latest information that we have on Floyd. It is at 34.2 north, 77.8 west. That is roughly 5 miles southeast of Wilmington, North Carolina. Indeed, the hurricane has made landfall already this morning, very close to Cape Fear. Its winds right now still sustained at 110 miles per hour, although we do anticipate a slow, gradual weakening as the hurricane continues to interact with land. Oftentimes, the friction with the land helps to dissipate these tropical systems, so we do anticipate a slow weakening as we go through the next few hours or so. Right now, the general movement is towards the north-northeast at some 20 miles per hour. A reminder that hurricane warnings continue at this time from Edisto Beach, South Carolina, northward towards Cape Henlopen in Delaware. Throughout this region, very squally conditions, very, very stiff winds will be likely. We've had a report this morning from Wilmington, North Carolina. Peak wind gusts up to 80 miles per hour. And around Topsail Beach, we've had peak wind gusts over 100 miles per hour. So again, hurricane force winds likely to rake the coastline. A very, very intense morning across the Carolinas. Now just north of there, though, we have tropical storm warnings in effect, and those extend northward towards southern New England, right around the Cape Cod area. Here, too, we'll likely see the weather deteriorating throughout the day with more stiff winds picking up. We will likely see tropical storm force winds, meaning winds gusting around 40 miles per hour or higher in this general region. So again, the weather steadily and surely going downhill from the mid-Atlantic to the northeast as Hurricane Floyd also travels in a northerly fashion. Now, oftentimes when hurricanes and tropical systems do make landfall, they can spawn severe weather, specifically tornadoes. So this is something else that we'll be watching very, very closely as we had numerous reports of tornado touchdowns yesterday evening as this hurricane was approaching land. Right now, watch is in effect for eastern sections of Virginia, parts of Maryland, and also a large chunk of eastern sections of North Carolina. We've also had reports of excessive rainfall. Some locales near Wilmington, over 15 inches of rain. So numerous flood warnings in effect right now for most of eastern North Carolina, and then flood watches extending northward all the way through Massachusetts and southern New Hampshire, as the heavy rain will also be migrating and pulling off towards the north as we continue throughout the day. Well, let's get a more detailed look at Hurricane Floyd, and for that we go to our senior weather expert this morning, Stu Ostro. Good morning, Stu. What's the latest?
Well, we have quite a bit to talk about, Cheryl. For those of you just waking up, the hurricane has made landfall along the coast of North Carolina. We can show the path over the last 24 hours on this long satellite loop, the way it came up in here, wobbled a little bit to the east, thus preventing South Carolina from having the worst effects, but instead it ended up coming across the coast of North Carolina. We can see it now right at the end of this line here, center of circulation. Tough to call it an eye anymore, but the center of circulation now moving a little farther up the coast here. You can see Cape Fear, Bald Head Island got into the eye first around 3 o'clock this morning Eastern time. Since then, center of circulation skirting up the coast. What was the eye is now filled with precipitation, but the center of circulation probably right about in here and heading up to the north-northeast. Tides. Let's talk about the surge. We had a high tide right around midnight, and the strong onshore winds were in progress at that point, peaking out along some of the areas right where the center came in just after high tide, maybe somewhere along about in here at 1 and 2 in the morning, which was perhaps not right at the peak of high tide, but it was not at low tide either. So we'll just have to wait and see with morning light how the barrier islands fared with the surge and also the waves, which we'll get to in a moment too. Wind damage at one point, this hurricane close to Category 5 status, then it came down to a low 4, high 3, low 3. And at the time of landfall, on the high end of the 2 scale, we have had reports of some damage. With time, it will be descending down into the Category 1 status and eventually tropical storm force status, but with the extreme rainfall that has occurred, there still is the potential for trees to come down pretty easily, so you need to be careful out there. Also still perhaps some power lines coming down. In terms of those tide ranges, reason that's at least somewhat important along this stretch of the coast is that unlike the Gulf Coast, where the difference between high and low tide in terms of the water level is not quite as high, it is higher here, not as high as in New England, but still enough to make a bit of a difference. And let's see if we can go to the next frame. And here we have the rainfall. When all is said and done, this will be one of the biggest stories with the landfall of this hurricane. We had heavy rains extending out well ahead of where the center came on shore due to an interaction with a non-tropical system. That has resulted in these heavy rains spreading up the coast. That will continue to be the case. Locally heavy rains in the megalopolis as we go through the day today. Flash flood and flood warnings out across much of North Carolina and neighboring states, and you need to be careful as we go through the day due to that reason. Center of circulation, National Hurricane Center's track coming right along about in the middle. Could be a little way either side of that, but we think it will be somewhere pretty close to that. And with this frontal system and the hurricane and then tropical storm coming up, that's why we'll have the heavy rain and also a continuation of gusty winds along the coast. Here we have Hurricane Gert, a Category 4 hurricane in its own right, top winds of 150 miles per hour, not moving much north of due west. Here are the islands, and here our projected path with the National Hurricane Center's track in the middle of it shows that westward motion, but then hopefully taking a track more to the northwest. But with a hurricane of this intensity, certainly anybody in the islands here needs to watch the latest to make sure that that turn does occur. Cheryl?
Thanks, Stu. We appreciate the update. And you can definitely tell it's the heart of the hurricane season as we are tracking very closely 2 powerful hurricanes. Of course, Hurricane Floyd as it continues to bear down on North Carolina, and Hurricane Gert that continues to spin and churn up the waters across the Atlantic. Again, as always, if you're away from your TV set and you want more information regarding what's happening as far as the tropics, tune us in at weather.com. In the meanwhile, stay with us. We'll have continual coverage and updates regarding Hurricane Floyd throughout the entire morning hours.
The weather is a story, best explained by people who understand it. So get the story from the experts. The Weather Channel, keeping you ahead of the storm.
Good morning. I'm Cheryl Lemke as we continue to bring you updates regarding Hurricane Floyd. And if you are now just tuning in, Hurricane Floyd has made landfall. It came on shore shortly after 3 o'clock this morning near Cape Fear, North Carolina. Here's the latest that we have on Hurricane Floyd. Right now the coordinates at 34.2 north, 77.8 west. That is roughly 5 miles southeast of Wilmington, North Carolina. It's still packing winds of 110 miles per hour with some occasional gusts higher than that. Now, as it did come on shore, we saw some very stiff winds. Like in the past hour, Wilmington, North Carolina had peak wind gusts up to 80 miles per hour. And around Topsail Beach, we had reports of sustained winds of 81 miles per hour with gusts up to 105 miles per hour. So some very strong winds and strong waves, and just some really heavy rainfall continues to batter the coastline. A reminder right now that hurricane warnings continue from Edisto Beach northward towards Cape Henlopen in Delaware, and then tropical storm warnings just north of there. So the weather steadily going downhill, we think, from the mid-Atlantic through the northeast, as Hurricane Floyd also progresses in a northerly fashion throughout the day. And again, a reminder too that a severe thunderstorm watch, a tornado watch specifically, still in effect for portions of Virginia and North Carolina. Now, for a more in-depth look at Hurricane Floyd this morning, we want to switch gears and we want to go to Stu Ostro this morning. He's our senior weather expert. Good morning, Stu. Can you say more about Hurricane Floyd?
Well, as you said, Cheryl, the bottom line is the center of circulation, what once was the eye, has now come on shore. The weakening process, which had actually, fortunately, begun long before the center came onshore, will now continue, and we expect it to be downgraded as time goes on. But still, some very strong gusty winds out there, battering waves, surge, and last but not least, extremely heavy rainfall. Let's look at the track over the last 24 hours on the satellite photo. Ending up here at the moment, you can backtrack it down from when it was paralleling the Florida coast, made the turn so that from Myrtle Beach and the Grand Strand on down to Charleston and elsewhere along the South Carolina coast, they not only missed the strongest winds, but what winds they did get, and there was some damage there, but what winds they did get paralleled the coast, then quickly turned around to offshore, so they didn't have a whole lot of surge to worry about. However, a little farther up the coast, we've had the very strong onshore wind spiraling around the eye, now the center of circulation, which is getting a little harder to find, but it's somewhere up in here. Very, very heavy rains, though, continuing on the northwest side. As far as the surge goes, we had high tide right around midnight Eastern time. The winds were already increasing onshore, and although the strongest onshore winds in Topsail Beach and some of the other barrier islands south of it were not necessarily right at the time of high tide, it was certainly nowhere near low tide either, and we'll just have to wait and see what kind of damage we had from the surge and from the battering waves. In terms of wind damage, we have had some reports, and certainly winds of over 100 miles per hour, at least in gusts, can cause problems. And even though those winds will be coming down with a very heavy rain and the tree limbs, or rather the tree roots, being weakened, you need to be careful out there because the potential does exist for some of them to come down even inland. And again, here's the tidal range as compared to New England. Not as high there, but greater than along the Gulf Coast, where the difference between high and low tide typically is not as much. Cheryl?
Thanks, Stu. We appreciate the update. Well, Hurricane Floyd will certainly be a top weather maker for the next couple of days or so. And now to see how the hurricane may be impacting your weather, let's check out the forecast with Will Annan.
Thanks a lot, Cheryl. Looks like as you take a look at Floyd and its moisture interacting with our weak trough low pressure for the eastern part of the country, all that moisture begins to work its way on northward, so that by Friday, by the time we look at tomorrow afternoon, heavy wind and rain still likely to be plaguing eastern New York, a good chunk of New England, and you'll be looking at a real soggy day for the northeastern part of the country, with the rains finally beginning to abate throughout much of the mid-Atlantic after extensive flooding the last couple of days. And looks like that will continue today for Virginia and beginning to move on northward into eastern Pennsylvania. We'll definitely have to keep our eyes on that one. That's a look at what's going to be happening for tomorrow. Now, let's see what's going to be happening for the first half of the weekend. As you take a look at the northeastern part of the country, Floyd is gone. Take a look at this. You're back to sunshine, light winds, fabulous weather from Caribou, Maine to Burlington, Vermont, Boston and Bedford, New York and Philadelphia and Harrisburg. You should be looking at a gorgeous fall-like day with temperatures beginning to hold into the 70s perhaps after some early morning lows in the 40s and 50s. And looks like anything to deal with Floyd is going to be long gone, except for some of those rivers which should still be running a little bit on the high side, even for the first half of the weekend. Take a look at the western part of the country. You've seen a couple of days of some monsoonal moisture returning to Arizona and New Mexico. So you folks around Phoenix and Tucson, a shot at looking at some widely scattered showers yet for the first half of the weekend. Second half of the weekend, still very dry for the eastern seaboard and the Appalachian chain. Now we focus our attention on yet another front. This go around, there could be some scattered showers beginning to break out. Traverse City, Kalamazoo to around Chicago, Springfield, Illinois, Springfield, Missouri, down towards Harrison in the state of Arkansas. The Pacific Northwest, you've got a big ridge of high pressure overhead, so no big changes here and no rainfall in the forecast. That is going to be the story there. Now, as you take a look at early next week, best odds of looking at some rainfall this go around should be diminishing right around Chicago, but increasing threats of rain will be found around Buffalo, Detroit, Columbus, nearby Reynoldsburg, Ohio, Dayton and Cincinnati, Lexington and Louisville, getting all the way down towards Birmingham, Alabama, and also right around, let's say, Montgomery, and also over towards Jackson in the state of Mississippi. Now, by the time we look at Tuesday, we could be looking at a threat of more showers. Pittsburgh, Columbus, getting down towards Atlanta. Very dry again over the southeastern part of the country, where you did miss the moisture, of course, from our Hurricane Floyd. I saw a lot of rainfall around Columbia, South Carolina, on eastbound to Charleston, up towards Raleigh, Durham, but nothing fell around Atlanta or Columbus or nearby Phoenix City. So it's been very, very dry there. And you can see these forecast highs coming up. We'll take you Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Looks like delightful weather through the upcoming weekend. Fall-like weather for sure throughout the northern tier states. Stay with us. We'll be back in a moment.
You can jab him in the ribs. You can try to turn him over. You can put a pillow over his head. But nothing will stop that awful snoring.
Snoring can even ruin a romantic cruise. Hi, I'm Bernie Coppell, and I have something that will solve your snoring problems once and for all, guaranteed. This amazing product is called D-Snore. It's a unique new formula in the form of a spray. That's right, it's a spray. Just spray D-Snore on the upper part of your throat. It works instantly to moisten the membranes of your soft palate and allow free and easy breathing. You'll sleep without snoring all night long. D-Snore will work for you too. It's guaranteed. If you snore or have a loved one that snores, get D-Snore. It's just what the doctor ordered.
To order D-Snore, have your credit card ready and call the number on your screen. Find out how you can get 1 full month supply of D-Snore absolutely free. Call now.
For 10 years, the cable industry has been helping teachers teach through cable in the classroom. That's cable in the classroom. All the great things that cable can be in the classroom. It's free to schools, commercial free, and it's educational. There's a great, big, wonderful world out there, and cable in the classroom brings it into the classroom. I wish they had it when I was a kid.
Cable in the Classroom is a public service of the Weather Channel and your local cable company.
You can also get reliable forecasts from the Weather Channel through this radio station or newspaper.
Hurricane Floyd has finally made landfall. We're closely watching this storm's progress from the Weather Channel and also from the field. These are scenes from Charleston, South Carolina on Wednesday. Look at this damage the winds caused. And looks like more of that to come as we look at the eastern seaboard right through the upcoming day. Good morning and welcome to the Weather Center. I'm Will Annan. Let's get an update right now on our top story. That is Hurricane Floyd. And for that, we turn to Cheryl Lemke in the Forecast Center.
Thanks, Will, and good morning. Now, in case you're just tuning in, we did see that Hurricane Floyd made landfall earlier this morning, shortly after 3 o'clock this morning, and made landfall near Cape Fear, North Carolina. It has weakened somewhat, but it's still a very powerful and a very dangerous hurricane. As it made landfall, it was classified as a very intense Category 2 hurricane. Here's the very latest that we have on Hurricane Floyd. Now, the hurricane warning continues this morning, stretching from South Carolina northward through Delaware. A tropical storm warning extends from the Delaware coast to Massachusetts. And right now, the center of the storm is over the coast of North Carolina. Dozens of counties, mainly in North Carolina, are still facing flood warnings this morning. And preliminary estimates suggest damage from Floyd will range between $2 to $3.5 billion. So we are possible here to see a very, very devastating hurricane, especially for the dollar amount that we could be seeing damage from this particular hurricane. Now let's check out the very latest that we have on Hurricane Floyd. Right now the coordinates are roughly centered at 34.2 north, 77.8 west. That is roughly 5 miles southeast of Wilmington, North Carolina. Again, the winds are still at 110 miles per hour, although we do anticipate a slow, gradual weakening, which oftentimes does take place when tropical systems make landfall. They have that interaction with the land. They lose their main energy source, which is the warm ocean waters. So they usually do start to dissipate shortly after they do make landfall. Now currently the hurricane is moving towards the north-northeast at 20 miles per hour, and we do anticipate the hurricane to more or less continue in that general path for a good part of the day, almost paralleling the coast. Again, at this point, hurricane warnings continue from Edisto Beach, South Carolina, running northward towards Cape Henlopen in Delaware. Certainly throughout this region, we'll be seeing some very squally conditions, very stiff winds. In fact, around Topsail Beach, North Carolina, we've had some wind gusts this morning up to 105 miles per hour. Just north of where the hurricane warnings are, we have tropical storm warnings in effect. Here too, we'll be watching the weather steadily and surely going downhill throughout the day. Strong tropical storm force winds will be likely, we think, from Cape Henlopen northward towards Plymouth, Massachusetts. And we're talking about wind gusts today exceeding 40 miles per hour throughout these regions. Now, oftentimes, too, when tropical systems do make landfall, they can spawn severe weather, specifically tornadoes. We saw that already taking place yesterday and last evening. So still of utmost concern, the possibility for more severe weather. And currently, a tornado watch continues for portions of Virginia and North Carolina. We've also had some tremendously heavy rainfall in association with Hurricane Floyd. Some of the heaviest rains, if you can see, have been pounding portions of eastern North Carolina. And right now, many counties in eastern North Carolina remain under flood warnings. Around the Wilmington area, we had reports of around 15 inches or even heavier rainfall than that, and some unofficial reports of over 20 inches of rain. So again, some tremendously heavy tropical downpours taking place throughout these regions. And so far, even though the heaviest rains have been taking aim on North Carolina, we do think that heavy rain will start to shift towards the north throughout the day. Hence, flash flood watches in effect all the way northward through parts of Massachusetts and southern New Hampshire. Again, we are watching the situation very, very closely, not only here in the studios, but also live in the fields. And this morning we are going to Mike Seidel, who's been weathering the storm, so to speak, in Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina. Good morning, Mike. What's the latest from your perspective?
Well, Cheryl, this morning it's, well, maybe not such a good morning for the locals here, but at least the worst of Hurricane Floyd is over with. It's been a very dynamic evening and overnight period. We started off with the fringe effects, then the bands, the eye wall, followed by the eye of the hurricane. The winds went calm, dead calm about an hour ago, and now all of a sudden in just the past 5 or 6 minutes we're getting hit from the other side by the returning gusty winds from the northwest, gusting at 30 to 35 miles an hour. So just like you read in the textbook, the winds go calm and then you get slammed from the other side, usually not getting hit as hard as you do as the hurricane approaches. Over a foot of rainfall, the storm surge, after I talked to some locals, matched the surge that we saw with Hurricane Fran in 1996. Unlikely, though, to see the damage that Fran kicked in here because the winds weren't quite as strong. We haven't heard anything from the barrier islands, including Wrightsville Beach. We're here on the intercoastal. We couldn't go over to the beach because of the mandatory evacuation, but at first light we'll be able to at least survey some of the damage down here at the dock. We can show you what it looked like earlier this evening as we surveyed the area with the stronger winds. Now this is before as the eye wall moved in. We were getting wind gusts in excess of 70, 80 miles an hour. A lot of tree limbs blown down. Power is still out here in Wrightsville Beach. And again, that storm surge ranking up there with Fran looked like about 3 feet of water in the street here off the intercoastal waterway. So once again, the wind's now blowing offshore. That will blow the water back out into the Atlantic, and that should alleviate the problems there. But we're still looking for more wind and more rain, at least through the morning hours here in eastern North Carolina, with the worst of the weather now moving up towards the Outer Banks. Cheryl, we'll keep you updated from our vantage point here in Wrightsville Beach.
Thanks, Mike. We appreciate the update. Again, that was Mike Seidel reporting live from Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina. Now we kind of switch gears and we go from Mike Seidel to our very own senior weather expert, Stu Ostro. Stu, can you tell us a little bit more about the future that we can expect now from Hurricane Floyd?
Well, Cheryl, we still have quite a bit of action left to come from Floyd. Just because the center of circulation has come inland does not mean that the show is over. The hurricane and eventually tropical storm will be affecting a good part of the northeast corridor with wind and rain. Let's take a look at the last 24 hours in terms of the track of the hurricane on the satellite photo, and we can backtrack it here and then follow it right on up as it paralleled the Florida coast, made the turn, sparing South Carolina the worst wind and wave and surge, but then coming on shore during the last couple of hours, the eye just scraped by Bald Head Island, and now what's left of the eye, the center of circulation, now bodily moving inland just up the coast from there. And we can see that on radar. We've expanded the view a little bit, and we've put in a loop that goes back about 6 hours. You can see how it spirals along, and now it's getting a little tougher to find the center of circulation on radar, but based on this and based on satellite, we think it's somewhere in here. Still some heavy rain, squalls right around what's left of the eye wall, and then where Mike is, which is just about in here, you can see how for a brief time right about here he got into the eye. Now the eye has gone by, or the center of circulation has gone by, and we have some of the heavy rain and gusty winds. Mercifully for the folks in North Carolina who have had to put up with the excessive rainfall and quite a bit of serious flooding, the back edge of the precipitation is in here, and it looks like the back edge of the heavier rain is in here. That'll all be exiting over the next few hours and on through the morning, so the cleanup from the flooding will begin, but the water will remain high from the rainfall-induced flooding for some time to come. Also, the center of circulation passing to the north-northeast, skirting along the coast, will still have the onshore flow along the areas that had the severe erosion from Dennis within the last 1 to 2 weeks. And even though the tide is going down, the battering waves, given that that part of the coast is particularly susceptible to them, will continue, and so will the erosion. Here's that rainfall. It sticks out like a sore thumb. You can see the reds and oranges and even the whites indicating 3, 6, 10, 15, perhaps even unofficially some 20-inch amounts following the path of the rain, which broke out well ahead of the hurricane interacting with another weather system, and that has caused some locally very serious flooding, and not just in North Carolina. Tidewater, Virginia has had some very intense rain echoes. Some of this offshore stuff here from New Jersey is building back toward the coast. Heavy rain reported in Atlantic City. Some of the more moderate rain building back into the I-95 corridor. And as the hurricane moves to the north-northeast and then the northeast, it will continue to throw that deep tropical moisture toward the northwest, interact with an old front, and the rain will continue to break out. We'll also have the strong winds along the coast and some of them inland too. Cheryl?
Thanks, Stu. We appreciate the update. And as Stu was mentioning, one of the concerns that we have today is the very heavy rainfall. Typically, we'll see a swath of at least 6 to 12 inches of rainfall along the path of Hurricane Floyd. Again, stay with the Weather Channel. We'll continue our comprehensive coverage of Hurricane Floyd. In the meanwhile, you can check us out online too at weather.com. Stay with us. We'll have more weather information coming up in just a moment.
Do you suffer from low back or hip pain morning after morning? Medical experts agree a pillow between your legs could be the best solution. But what a hassle. Too big, goes flat. Introducing the Contour Leg Pillow to give you relief without the hassle. Look, no leg support can put strain on the hips, knees, and pushes your lower back out of alignment. But the Contour Leg Pillow comfortably supports, restoring natural alignment. Relax back muscles, relieve strain on hips, knees, and joints. The curve fits your leg so it comfortably stays with you all night. Call now to get lower back, hip, and knee comfort with the Contour Leg Pillow. Now only $14.95, and will include the world-famous Contour Pillow for head, neck, and shoulder comfort, a $20 value free. That's a $40 head-to-toe comfort value for just $14.95.
Call 1-800-445-8118 to order the leg pillow and get the Contour Pillow free. That's 1-800-445-8118.
Cover hurricanes like we do at the Weather Channel, you need experience.
You need a team with experience.
Working together, getting it right for you. That's what the Weather Channel is about.
The Weather Channel. Experts keeping you ahead of the storm.
Right now, it's your local forecast on the Weather Channel. Now the Michelin TravelWise Report, brought to you by Michelin and your local Michelin dealer.
Well, once again, we'd like to talk about what's been happening with Hurricane Floyd. It did make landfall over the southeastern corner of North Carolina within the last hour to 90 minutes. It is on its move on towards the north, and with it is going to be some very gusty winds yet over much of eastern North Carolina and Virginia, and also getting up towards the Delmarva. And we're going to talk about some very heavy rainfall. A lot of flooding going on overnight in parts of North and South Carolina and Virginia, and all that moisture is heading on northbound. Could be looking at extensive flooding in parts of Pennsylvania, and even beyond that, heading northbound during the next couple of days. With a landfalling hurricane, you always have to beware of the fact that we could be looking at some isolated tornadoes. Because of that fact, we do have right now a tornado watch in effect until 9 o'clock this morning for most of southeastern Virginia and much of east central and the northeastern corner of North Carolina, once again until 9 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time. Now look at the moisture again. We are looking at Floyd beginning to work its way on northbound, interacting with a weak trough low pressure stuck over the eastern part of the country, and that is going to be enhancing the rainfall, enhancing the possibility of some flooding rains as everything again begins to rotate its way northward very slowly during the next couple of days. By the weekend, however, we have you folks in New England look at a couple of days of rainfall coming in. Then you're back to sunshine, light winds, and some fabulous weather. Let's take a look at eastern North Carolina. Some spots 15 to 20 inches of rainfall, and the rain is still coming on down. All the way from New Bern back to Fayetteville, Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill, looking at more rainfall, and it has been heavy all night long into early on this morning. And once again, we are looking at the possibility of 5 to 10 more inches of rainfall, beginning to move out of North Carolina by later this morning, but still plaguing most of you folks in eastern and also southeastern sections of Virginia. Norfolk, Virginia Beach, more heavy rain is on the way. You've already seen some extensive flooding and more to come because of the moisture from Floyd, all beginning to interact with that front and beginning to work its way on northward. There's the rainfall right now. Eastern North Carolina beginning to pull as far northward as New England. And for you folks in New England, it's going to be a couple of days of more heavy rainfall, but everybody along the eastern coast should be looking at some fabulous weather this weekend. You're back to sunshine and some light winds. Stronger thunderstorms may be found over the southwestern part of the country today for the third day in a row around Phoenix and also right around Tucson and also right around Clovis, New Mexico. Isolated tornadoes and severe weather could be drifting as far north as around New York City come later on today, all because of Floyd. Also right around Norfolk, Virginia and eastern North Carolina, and beyond that, looking at the moisture plaguing most of the Northeast.
Everybody has suffered from the effects of a bad night's sleep, whether from minor back pain, heartburn, or just because you can't get comfortable. And the constant tossing and turning at night can make you feel like you're in the middle of a cliffhanger. We at Sleep Comfort want to mail you our free video and brochure showing how our adjustable bed can give you that better night's sleep you've always dreamed about. Our soothing massage and pillow top mattress gives you the feeling you're in a tropical paradise. And the dream gets better because now adjustable beds have become affordable for everyone. With no money down, our Jubilee model is only $19 per month. And we give you 90 days to sleep on our bed with no risk. If you don't like it, send it back. So call now to receive this free video and brochure about the adjustable bed that only costs $19 per month and comes with a free 90-day in-home trial. Call now.
Call 1-800-279-9847, 1-800-279-9847.
Good morning, it's 6 a.m. Come on, your meeting's in 2 hours.
Comfort Inn knows the business traveler.
I've been thinking. Kill the slides. Just talk to him.
Remember, enunciate. Take deep breaths.
Our complimentary breakfast saves you time and money.
You the man.
Our guest privileges frequency program earns you free nights fast. And we serve business travelers in over 1,500 locations worldwide.
You did it again.
I love my job.
It's more than a room, it's comfort.
You can also get reliable forecasts from the Weather Channel through this radio station or newspaper.
The weather is a story, best explained by people who understand it. So get the story from the experts. The Weather Channel, keeping you ahead of the storm.
You can jab him in the ribs. You can try to turn him over. You can put a pillow over his head. But nothing will stop that awful snoring.
Snoring can even ruin a romantic cruise. Hi, I'm Bernie Coppell, and I have something that will solve your snoring problems once and for all, guaranteed. This amazing product is called D-Snore. It's a unique new formula in the form of a spray. That's right, it's a spray. Just spray D-Snore on the upper part of your throat. It works instantly to moisten the membranes of your soft palate and allow free and easy breathing. You'll sleep without snoring all night long. D-Snore will work for you too. It's guaranteed. If you snore or have a loved one that snores, get D-Snore. It's just what the doctor ordered.
To order D-Snore, have your credit card ready and call the number on your screen. Find out how you can get 1 full month supply of D-Snore absolutely free. Call now.
Right now, it's your local forecast on the Weather Channel.
The very latest on first of all, the very latest on Hurricane Floyd, which did make landfall within the last couple of hours. We'll show you the actual satellite picture. And there it is right near Cape Fear in the southeastern corner of North Carolina. That's where it made landfall. And once again, tremendous amounts of rainfall across eastern South Carolina, much of eastern and central North Carolina, and southeastern Virginia. You folks from Virginia Beach and Norfolk, a lot of flooding has been going on. Extensive flooding in parts of Virginia, the Carolinas, looking at all the rainfall now beginning to work its way northward. And that's going to be the big story for the next couple of days, with heavy rain beginning to invade even New England come later on today and lingering through later tomorrow. The very latest right now on Hurricane Floyd, the 4 o'clock advisory is in. It was positioned at 34.2 degrees north, 77.8 degrees west, or about 5 miles southeast of Wilmington, North Carolina. Top sustained winds 110 miles per hour, picking up forward speed. There it is, north-northeasterly bound at 20, and the pressure was at 956 millibars. We still have hurricane warnings out, by the way, as far northward as around Cape Henlopen in Delaware, and north of there, we'll talk about some tropical storm warnings as far north as Plymouth in the state of Massachusetts. The current forecast track takes Floyd and continues to hug it right along the coastline, so it may not die a very, very quick death. So again, we're going to be looking at, again, a lot of moisture being thrown back towards the west, potential for a lot of flooding, perhaps catastrophic flooding, because it's going to be interacting with a trough low pressure, all the moisture from Floyd interacting with a weak trough over the east coast, and that means a lot of rainfall, at times excessive rainfall from North Carolina today and Virginia, and then beginning to work its way northward across a good chunk of New England by later on this afternoon, and certainly just about all day on Friday, you could be looking at some more rainfall too. With landfalling hurricanes, of course, you do see isolated tornadoes, and for that reason, we do have a tornado watch out right now until 9 o'clock this morning for much of southeastern Virginia and eastern North Carolina. We'll keep our eyes in this situation. Once again, in southeastern Virginia overnight, a report of at least one tornado touchdown, doing at least some damage there. Let's see what's going on right now, because you can see the eye of the hurricane, whatever is left of it. It was very ragged as it made landfall, but just about right in through here, again, you can see it beginning to move its way northward, the center of circulation, and again, it's a very ragged one, but very, very intense rains right now, beginning to bear down on New Bern in North Carolina. Still looking at some healthy rains from Fayetteville to Raleigh-Durham, Chapel Hill, Interstates 85 and 95 waterlogged as of yet, and keep in mind many counties right now over much of let's say eastern and northeastern South Carolina, much of the eastern half of North Carolina, and south central and southeastern Virginia are under not only flood watches but flood warnings right now because of some tremendous rains. Here we go once again looking at the rainfall beginning to work its way northward. How much rain did fall? We'll check in this graphic right now. We'll estimate the rainfall amounts for you right here, and the deeper reds right in through here, at least 10 to 20 inches of rainfall. It is still coming on down and beginning to roll its way on northward very quickly right now with Hurricane Floyd. How much rain officially? Well, you can see Wilmington, North Carolina, as of 2 o'clock this morning, over 15 inches of rainfall. North Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, over 13. Norfolk, Virginia, extensive flooding with over 5 inches of rainfall. And Raleigh-Durham, reporting almost 4.5 inches of rainfall. It is still coming on down heavily. And how much more rain is going to be falling? Well, locally, up to 5 to 10 more inches of rainfall near the path of what is going to be left of Hurricane Floyd. Come later on this afternoon, it will be downgraded to a tropical storm. But you can see the major cities will be looking at some big-time rains. Dover, Delaware, Philadelphia, Harrisburg, New York City, and Trenton, Boston, and Bedford. You're going to be looking at a real good soaking for the next couple of days. And by the weekend, as we look at it right now, Floyd is going to be gone and the sunshine is going to be back. Officially, this is where we see right now the flood watches, and in many cases, flood warnings continue.
If you're taking Metabolife, or if anyone you know is taking Metabolife, or if you've ever considered taking Metabolife, you should listen to this. We feel that Metabolife is a great success story. The only problem we find with the product is we feel it's too expensive, with a suggested retail price of about $50 per bottle. That's why we developed Metabolize and Save that you can buy directly from us for just $19.95 per bottle. Compare for yourself. Look at the actual information taken from each bottle. Vitamin E, 6 I use in each. Magnesium, 75 milligrams. 5 milligrams of zinc. And chromium, 75 mcgs in both. Both products contain these other ingredients too. Guarana, mawang, ginseng, ginger, golden seal, royal jelly, just to name a few. So why pay $50 for this when you can pay $20 for this?
To order Metabolize and Save, call 1-800-351-5522. That's 1-800-351-5522.
Attention credit card holders. Fly Free America offers 2 complimentary round-trip airline tickets. You heard right, 2 free airline tickets. This amazing offer is only for credit card holders. Start planning your vacation to exotic locations and paradise retreats. The call is free. The tickets are free. Don't wait. Get your 2 free round-trip airline tickets. Call now. 1-888-515-FREE. That's 1-888-515-FREE.
For 10 years, the cable industry has been helping teachers teach through cable in the classroom. That's cable in the classroom. All the great things that cable can be in the classroom. It's free to schools, commercial free, and it's educational. There's a great, big, wonderful world out there, and cable in the classroom brings it into the classroom. I wish they had it when I was a kid.
Cable in the Classroom is a public service of the Weather Channel and your local cable company.
We keep you ahead of the storm. The Weather Channel team monitors, tracks, analyzes.
The big concern, though, will be the water.
Keeping you prepared. That's what we do.
The Weather Channel. Experts keeping you ahead of the storm.
Right now, it's your local forecast on the Weather Channel.
Hurricane Floyd sweeps through and past Charleston with high winds. Details about what the storm is doing coming up soon.
This is Mike Seidel, Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina. It has been a wild weather night, but very interesting meteorologically. We'll explain why coming up in a live report.
In the Northeast, in big cities like New York, Baltimore, and Washington, and Philadelphia, some of you getting some very torrential downpours already. More on that just to come. Good morning. Welcome to Weather Center on this Thursday morning. I'm Rick Griffin. Hurricane Floyd has made landfall during the last few hours, and in many cases it is causing some rather extensive flooding. For example, in Brunswick County, North Carolina, you have received between 15 and 20 inches of rain from Floyd so far. The good news is that the rainfall in that county is almost over. However, the high water is likely to persist for several hours to come as the runoff, the freshwater flooding continues to persist. Let's go to the latest on Floyd now, starting with our close-up radar view, and you can see that in Brunswick County down here the rain is indeed tapering off, but in other parts of North Carolina, northward through Virginia into the mid-Atlantic region, the rain continues to be very, very heavy. There's heavy rain now, in fact, from Atlantic City down towards Washington, D.C., and before long it's going to be into New York City. Well, the satellite view shows that Floyd, well, for one thing, the eye not visible. That's become much more diffuse and well-defined, and you really can't pick it out here on the satellite picture anymore. But Floyd continues to be a rather significant hurricane with top sustained winds of 110 miles per hour. Floyd is moving north-northeast and has accelerated to about 20 miles per hour at this point. The pressure up to 956 millibars. It is located as of 4 o'clock Eastern Time, a few miles southeast of Wilmington, North Carolina at 34.2 north and 77.8 west. Hurricane warnings remain in place from the coastal sections of South Carolina up to Cape Henlopen, Delaware, including parts of the Chesapeake Bay. And here's the extent of the tropical storm warnings. Cape Henlopen, northern half of the Chesapeake Bay, up to Plymouth, Massachusetts. And from there north, tropical storm watches have been posted. The latest radar shows